Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening, that enviable bastard. The real excitement came when a third girl entered, having seen Loke on a date with someone else and barged in. She was angry and sad, questioning if Loke's love for her was fake. Rhodes silently lamented. This girl was too gentle. Why didn't she just give him a good slap? However, Loke adjusted his glasses, sincerely expressed his love, and the girl's anger immediately disappeared. She even affectionately clung to his arm. This upset the other 2 girls, and it seemed like a fight was about to break out. Loke leaned in and whispered something to each girl, and then the 2 earlier ones blushed, smiling as they left. Rhodes was dumbfounded. How did he do that? Mara Jane shook her head lightly. I don't know. In this area, Loke is definitely the guild's best. Just like a straight line of charm. The small mirror wasn't like a cell phone, it only offered a limited view of Loke, so the 2 had to stay close. So close that Rhodes could smell the fragrance of Mara Jane's hair, and her hair brushed against his cheek when she gently shook her head. Even if he didn't see the love triangle mess he was hoping for, this was still a win for Rhodes. Mara Jane found this amusing as well. Definitely worth it. The next day, in the guild's backyard, Mara Jane spoke each word carefully, seriously explaining the takeover magic. The most important thing for takeover magic is familiarity, or rather control. You need to be able to handle every form seamlessly. After speaking her mind yesterday, Mara Jane no longer opposed Rhodes learning takeover magic. And thus, Mara Jane returned to being teacher Myra. As for the original instructor, Saint Wizard Mikarov, the 3rd master of fairy tale, Mara Jane had sent him off to write a report. The old man was completely confused as to why Mara Jane was suddenly so stern, even ordering him to quit drinking. There's a major issue. Takeover magic consumes far more mana than summoning. I can't practice for long every day. The best way, of course, would be to increase his mana capacity, but that was a gradual process. Even with Rhodes' current modest mana base, it would take several weeks of intensive training to see noticeable progress. And to maintain Rhodes' usual routine of all-around training. Mara Jane thought for a moment. In that case, you could try partial takeover, like only taking over an arm or just both legs. This way, you can train specific abilities individually. Once you're familiar with them, you can use full takeover for further training. Elfman currently used partial takeover the most. For the same reasons as Mara Jane, he was unable to use full takeover now. Partial takeover is less challenging than full takeover, and it also consumes less mana. Of course, its power can't compare to full takeover. It may not be strong enough for combat, but for a beginner, it's perfect for training. That works too. Rhodes agreed to try. Partial takeover, scuttle crab, right arm. Bright spots of light flickered on Rhodes' right arm before it was covered in green armor plating, extending all the way to his shoulder. It was indeed much easier. He moved his right arm a bit, noticing a significant increase in strength. And the effect? It gave him an Iron Man kind of vibe. Rhodes extended his left arm and used partial takeover again. The green armor extended from his arm all the way to his chest. Your control over the magic isn't precise enough, but for just starting, being able to switch seamlessly between full and partial takeover is impressive, Rhodes. Mara Jane praised. She herself had once been troubled by not being able to change her arm back. Rhodes smiled. He didn't consider himself exceptional. His fast progress could very well be because the beasts fully obeyed his orders. He didn't need to engage in a battle of will or spirit like other takeover users. So, using the power of beasts was much easier for him compared to others using takeover magic. Rhodes practiced for a while as Mara Jane shared the tricks she'd learned. She also used her own experience to correct Rhodes' unnecessary movements during combat. Mara Jane, there's a mission I'd like to take. Coming. It wasn't until someone interrupted them that Mara Jane let Rhodes practice on his own. Swish, swish. Rhodes swung his arm, now a crab pincer. There's nothing better than some good training. Chapter 88, Let's Fight. When Rhodes finished his training and returned to the tavern to work, he immediately felt numerous eyes on him. It reminded him of those two big goose who had glared at him yesterday. Coincidentally, Croft and Nicky were among those people too. Flirting with the guild's belle really does stir up public anger. Rhodes clenched his fists, saying somewhat provocatively, "Anyone wanna fight?" Swish, swish, swish. More than a dozen people in the tavern stood up, their expressions unfriendly. Even Macau and Wakaba, who usually treated him well, were among them. Knowing when to yield, Rhodes decisively said, "Well, go ahead and start fighting amongst yourselves. I don't feel like fighting today." "Are you kidding me? In guild fights, it's an unwritten rule to start with fists before magic. Fighting against over a dozen guys without using magic? He'd definitely get beaten up, and without gaining anything from it, too. Not to mention the embarrassment in front of Myra. Unless he'd lost his mind, there was no way he'd do that. Rhodes, you coward, show some backbone." "Yeah? If you have guts, let's duel in the backyard, using any magic we like." This time, the others hesitated. Duel with Rhodes using magic? If they couldn't knock him out instantly, the duel would quickly turn into a brawl. If this guy gets anxious, his wolves, giant birds, and stone beetles would trample all over them in no time. Which summoner can casually summon more than 20 creatures at once? These days, whether it was Rhodes issuing a challenge or someone else challenging Rhodes, they generally need to set some rules. Only people like Natsu, Gray, or Kana could manage better. Because when Rhodes brought out all the wild creatures, he couldn't hold on for too long. This little challenge ended inconclusively, as both sides were wary of each other. Some decided they'd definitely drag Rhodes into the next guild brawl. Rhodes also decided to be extra cautious when walking alone at night from now on. Myra seemed rather busy today, there were quite a few people lining up to take on missions. Maybe it's because it's the start of the month, and they're short on cash, or they want to work hard early in the month so they can slack off during the middle and end of it. Out of over 100 members in Fairy Tale, about half of them live this way. They were young, without families to support, and mostly just had to worry about rent and living expenses. With little financial pressure, they spent most of their time hanging out at the guild, eating, drinking, and having fun. Many of them weren't too concerned about improving their skills. Some had quirky personalities, making it difficult for them to make friends outside of the guild, so staying at the guild was the most comfortable option. The guild's troublemakers weren't limited to Natsu and Gray. People like Rhodes, who were motivated and ambitious, were fundamentally different from the slackers. Although he didn't go on many missions either, he was always working hard. And at the beginning of the month, he wasn't short on money because he got his salary. Last month, Rhodes had a few days of absence while doing a mission, so he only got 100,000 J in salary. Myra seemed to have cut him some slack while calculating his salary. By his own estimates, it should have been only 80,000 J. To thank her for her kindness, Rhodes decided he'd invite her out for some desserts in the coming days. "Rhodes, 2 orders of pan-fried cod here." Rhodes conveyed the order to cook at the kitchen counter, then shouted to the customer who ordered, "Croft, you still dare to call on me? Want me to add a bucket of chili sauce to your dish?" Croft wasn't fazed at all. "Go ahead, cook will kill you for it." That was indeed an issue. Wasting chili sauce and ruining one of Cook's masterpieces would definitely get him chased around with a knife. A moment later, besides sending out the plates, the kitchen counter also sent out a little Poro. "Why are you here too? Got kicked out." Rhodes picked up Worm, feeling the little creature had grown even heavier. Snuffle. Worm seemed very happy, its tiny horns bobbing up and down. It jumped out of Rhodes' arms and ran back to the kitchen counter, where it hooked a basketball-sized bag with its paw. Worm opened the bag and showed its contents to Rhodes. "Is this Poro delicacy?" Rhodes looked at the biscuit-like food inside, pleasantly surprised. "It's a success?" Worm nodded, then shook its head. This round, fluffy little creature seemed to have a hard time making such complex gestures. "So, it's a partial success?" Rhodes thought for a moment. "Poro delicacy version 1.0, then." Snuffle. Worm took out a biscuit the size of a plate and handed it to Rhodes, signaling for him to try it. Rhodes hesitated a bit. He remembered Cook mentioning he wanted this to become a guild specialty snack. "All right, I'll give it a try." He broke off a small piece and gave it to Worm first, saying righteously, "Poro delicacy, Poro tries first." Oh, filthy human, exploiting the adorable Poro just because he's afraid it might not taste good. Rhodes observed Worm's expression closely. Good, it didn't seem bitter, spicy, or weird. Seeing Worm so happy, Rhodes felt a twinge of guilt. Just about 0.01 milligrams. And decided not to make Worm help clean under his bed next time. Poro delicacy tasted soft, sticky, and sweet like a chiffon cake, making it a great snack. Not sure about the effects, but given Worm's recent growth spurt, it seemed to help its development. At least, the research funding hadn't gone to waste. But seriously, is Worm growing because of eating Poro delicacy, or has it just been hanging around the kitchen too long and put on weight? Mid-September, Magnolia gradually entered autumn. After 2 light rains early this month, the summer heat was nearly washed away. Taking Worm out in the morning, Rhodes felt the chill in the air, which made him glad about his decision to prepare for autumn and winter clothes early. Recently, the Sorcerer's Weekly had advertised a lot of new fall clothing, and prices in town seemed to be rising too. Rhodes decided he'd go shopping after work today, looking for some outdated clothes. For men's clothing, how outdated can it get? Picking something simple and classic, avoiding odd colors and patterns, generally meant it wouldn't go wrong. The downside was that clothes had a higher chance of being identical to others. But this wasn't a big deal. Once bought, he could always get the guild emblem stamped on them. Changing the color, position, and size of the emblem would make identical clothes look different. Besides, Myra was in charge of the stamps, so he could consult her while designing them. Rhodes' simple logic. Why bother putting effort into coordinating outfits if it's ultimately to impress a particular person? Might as well have her design them herself, and save the trouble. Aside from dealing with life's little issues, he hadn't slacked on his training either. He'd reached a good level of proficiency in the scuttle crab form of takeover magic, and was ready to receive the next creature. Plus, there was a new development in summoning magic. The newly lit area in the rift, which he planned to summon today to see what would come out. Chapter 89, Red Brambleback. I am the one who bridges the path between 2 realms. To ensure the success of his summoning, Rhodes decided to recite the complete incantation for once. Red Brambleback. As Rhodes uttered the creature's name, the ground beneath lit up with a red glow, and the creature's body sprouted quickly from the earth like a tree. Its limbs resembled sturdy tree trunks, with red claws extending from its feet. A glowing red orb sat on its back, surrounded by clusters of green leaves. The entire creature was about the size of a small house, making it appear imposing and fierce at close range. Red Brambleback was relatively stronger compared to the Merkwolves and other similar monsters. Due to its ability to provide a decent buff to whoever defeated it, its strategic importance was also quite high. As for its effect after being summoned, its sheer size and intimidating appearance were already impressive. The moment it appeared, the entire courtyard seemed to have shrunk considerably. Moreover, summoning it once had drained a substantial portion of Rhodes' magic power. Maintaining its existence felt like opening a floodgate. He figured it wouldn't be long before his legs gave out. With that kind of drain, Rhodes figured it wouldn't be a weakling. Is this a wood-based monster? Makarov closely observed the massive creature Rhodes had summoned. From what he could sense, the magic level of this creature was quite high, and it appeared to be wood-based. Rhodes issued a few simple commands like lie down and get up. Once he saw the creature obediently follow them, he moved closer to try touching it. This big fellow had a head that resembled a wooden stump, with glowing red eyes. After quietly feeling the Brambleback power for a while, Rhodes said, "It seems to have some wood-based magic, but what it excels at most is a buff spell called Crest of Cinders or Red Buff." "A buff spell?" "Yes." The big light bulb on the Bramble's back flickered, casting a red glow over Rhodes. 3 red, semi-transparent light patterns appeared around Rhodes, swirling around him like dragons. When he tried throwing a punch, the 3 light patterns enveloped his fist, transforming into red flames. Heaven smiled upon him. He finally had attack effects. Makarov, who was well versed in magic, immediately recognized the type of spell. This is an enhancement spell. And it grants magic to others. It's already touching upon the domain of high-level enchantments. So this is what enhancement magic feels like. Want to give it a try? Rhodes asked. After Makarov nodded, Rhodes patted the treant's front leg and pointed to the guild master, Red Buff. The red glow swept over, and the same light patterns as Rhodes appeared around Makarov. At that moment, however, the red light on the Bramble's back dimmed, suggesting it couldn't provide this buff to more people. Makarov tried throwing a punch, then enlarged his fist and punched again. The red glow seemed capable of transforming into enough flames to cover his entire fist, regardless of its size. Makarov said, "It's quite an impressive boost, and I feel more energized overall." Rhodes thought for a moment. Besides dealing extra damage, the red buff also provided some health regeneration. Though the effect wasn't too strong, would giving the guild master a dose of it every day make him live longer, maybe even rejuvenate him? As Rhodes was lost in these thoughts, he suddenly felt dizzy and weak, collapsing onto the ground. Brambleback disappeared shortly after. "My magic power couldn't hold out," Rhodes said, holding his head. "I couldn't even last 5 minutes. It looks like, for now, it's just a trump card. For an effect this powerful, the magic consumption is completely justified." McGraw evaluated. If you keep working hard, you might have a chance to participate in this year's S-Class promotion exam. S-Class? Me? Rhodes couldn't believe it. Putting everything else aside, wasn't his magic power far below the required level? McGraw nodded. Yes, if you can manage to take over it. Take over? Forget it. I can take the S-Class exam next year. Just summoning it had already drained most of his magic power. He couldn't even complete the first step of takeover. Not to mention that, after takeover, he'd need to stay battle ready. He'd drop dead, or, in this case, suffer from a magic deficiency. Looks like he'd have to work hard on improving his magic power next. Keep it up. McGraw seemed pleased with Rhodes' response. Indeed, even when faced with the allure of advancing to S-Class, he didn't act recklessly. If it were Natsu, and he heard that receiving a monster could grant him a chance at the S-Class exam, he'd try immediately, regardless of his magic power level. That was also why McGraw had brought up the S-Class exam to Rhodes. The boy's personality and temperament could make up for his lack of magic power. Natsu, on the other hand, was an example of what not to do. His strength wasn't enough to compensate for the shortcomings in his character and experience. It was only mid-September, with 3 months left until the S-Class exam. McGraw had high hopes for Rhodes' progress. By the way, how long does this red buff effect last? McGraw asked. Rhodes replied. If the brambleback is present, it can last around 10 minutes. If it's not, it can only last about 2 minutes. 2 minutes was plenty. Battles between wizards often ended quickly. Sometimes, an encounter with an opponent of the right element could end in a single move. If it was an unfamiliar spell, the person might already be on the ground before they knew what had hit them. Long-lasting, drawn-out battles were rare. Those were usually wars or prolonged confrontations between well-matched opponents. In that sense, a strong buff that lasted a few minutes was very valuable. McGraw, satisfied, returned to the tavern with the red glow still surrounding him. Rhodes truly had great potential. But Rhodes himself wasn't happy. Summoning a brambleback only to run out of magic power in a few minutes. What if he couldn't end things quickly in a real battle? He'd always been steadily advancing his training. Stamina, magic power, summoning magic, takeover magic. Everything had been progressing in parallel, and his magic power had steadily increased as he unlocked more creatures. But today, he suddenly found it insufficient. Then again, the limitations of his magic power had first become apparent when he learned takeover magic. Rhodes sat cross-legged on the ground, pondering for a while. He had to prioritize enhancing his magic power from now on. The methods, meditation, along with extreme physical training. Extreme physical training not only built endurance but also tempered the will, which was highly beneficial for boosting magic power. The downside was that it was grueling and could risk bodily harm. But what if, after the extreme training, he applied a crest of cinders to himself? The slight healing effect might offset some of the negative side effects, right? To boost his magic power, he could afford to take a bit of a risk. Chapter 90, There's Little Trouble. Ouch. Rhodes, who was thinking about his future training plan, suddenly heard Natsu scream. Why does the old man's punch hurt so much today? Next came Happy's voice. Natsu feels pain? You're lying, right? But the guildmaster just used fire magic. If you don't want to get hurt, then behave yourselves. McGraw scolded Natsu a few times, and then looked at the red glow gradually fading around him, lost in thought. Fire that could make Natsu feel pain was definitely not ordinary fire. Rhodes returned to the tavern feeling a bit guilty and sat on a stool at the counter to rest. Seeing that Myra didn't seem too busy, he asked. Natsu got beaten again. What was it for this time? He fought Nab and almost burned down the bulletin board. Myra said, glancing at the large bump on Natsu's head, finding it increasingly amusing. Burning down the bulletin board was indeed a good reason to get beaten. Rhodes' guilt reduced by 99.99%. Due to the investigate the volcano monster mission last time, Natsu had been feeling irritable these past few days. He'd been excited, thinking there was a clue about Neil, the fire dragon. But when he arrived, it turned out to be just a fire lizard living in the volcano. Although they completed the mission without causing too much trouble, Natsu still felt unsatisfied. Since then, he and Happy hadn't taken on any new missions for 10 days. Rhodes also contributed a bit, helping Natsu so that even though he'd been eating and drinking a lot lately, he didn't run out of money for daily expenses. Myra thought for a while and asked, what was the deal with the guildmaster's magic? How did you know that I know? Although the guildmaster also knows fire magic, it's just the most basic kind. What he just used was completely different. As expected of teacher Myra. There was nothing to hide here, so Rhodes said. That was a special ability of the creature I summoned today. Myra pretended to be angry. Now you call me teacher Myra. Why didn't you invite me to watch when testing a new spell? Because it's a new wild creature, and although all the creatures I've summoned so far have obeyed me completely, there's always a chance that a new one might go berserk. Not only for summoning a new creature, but Rhodes also didn't plan on asking her to watch when he received a new creature. Unless she could regain her S-class level, otherwise, if things really got out of hand and she got hurt, Rhodes would regret it forever. He always felt bad about troubling the guild master too. Maybe I should buy the guild master some drinks later. Oh wait, Myra's been restricting his drinking recently, so forget it. Such a heartless Rhodes. It feels weird for you to use the phrase obey completely here. Myra pondered for a moment but couldn't immediately think of a better word. She smiled bitterly and said, "You've almost made me forget how to speak properly." Rhodes patted his chest. "No worries, I'll take responsibility for teaching you the common tongue in the future. Spare me." Myra laughed. "How about learning from Lockie instead? Do you two have to drag me into your flirting?" Lockie put down a few wine glasses she had just collected, then made a prayer-like gesture with a dreamy expression. "All this must be what they call love. Like a whirlwind that, when it surges, also occasionally sweeps up those watching it." Lockie Myra was already used to Lockie's nonsense. Her face unfazed. Rhodes remained unperturbed, simply wanting to tell her to say more if she could speak at all. "By the way, Myra, what's up with Rizza today? She seems out of it." Lockie pointed to a corner of the guild. Rhodes asked in confusion. "Is Rizza in the guild? If Rizza was here, how could Natsu have acted out so much and even needed the guild master to intervene?" Rhodes looked curiously in the direction Lockie pointed. There, Rizza sat with her head bowed, seemingly staring at the tabletop. Her scarlet hair fell down on both sides. She remained motionless, with an aura of dejection surrounding her, her whole demeanor devoid of energy. If one stared at her for a few seconds, it almost felt like she had lost all her color, turning gray and lifeless. Myra spoke with some sympathy. "Rizza had a little incident during a mission." Lockie was incredulous. "Seriously? But it's Rizza. The Rizza. Even Rizza has things she's not good at handling." Myra couldn't hold back her laughter, her sympathy running out. She then hesitated. "But is it really okay to talk about this?" Seeing her expression, Rhodes knew she definitely wanted to say it, and all that was needed was for someone to say, "I promise I won't tell anyone." And then, sure enough, Lockie understood gossip well and immediately grabbed Myra's hand. "It's okay if you just tell us, I promise I won't say a word." She then glanced at Rhodes. Rhodes had never liked participating in such gossip, so he declared righteously, "I also promise. As long as you don't actually spread it, it doesn't count as gossip." The three then huddled together, whispering. "What?" Lockie almost screamed in shock, but quickly lowered her voice. "Rizza got confessed to?" Rhodes was more concerned whether Rizza had ended up killing someone. "What happened to that person? Still alive?" "Hey, shouldn't we be asking who it was?" Lockie retorted. "That person." Myra dragged her words slightly, building up suspense. "It was Akaya from Blue Pegasus." "Ah, Blue Pegasus Hanzo." Lockie's voice of admiration suddenly cut off, her expression becoming horrified. "Ayakaya?" Myra confirmed. "Yes, after Rizza completed her mission, she took a break at a tavern on her way back, where she met Akaya. Apparently, Mr. Akaya had seen Rizza accompanying the guild master at the regular meetings, and fell in love with her at first sight." "Ah. Well. Poor Rizza." Lockie didn't know much about Akaya, but as one of Blue Pegasus' signature wizards, she had seen his picture before. Let's just say it left an impression. Rhodes was the same. Mr. Akaya was the kind of person who was hard to forget after seeing once. Although judging someone solely by their appearance might be unfair, from what he knew, the most memorable thing about Akaya was indeed his appearance, which was something beyond his control. Since Mr. Akaya only confessed and said some cheesy lines without crossing the line, and since he's not really a bad guy, there wasn't much Rizza could do. Myra's tone had both sympathy and a hint of schadenfreude. Being entangled by a strange person can really be troublesome. Rizza could only escape back here. She's been sitting there daydreaming ever since, not even in the mood to repair the armor she damaged during the last fight. Rhodes reflected for a moment. He probably wasn't a strange person like that. Only then did he begin to feel sorry for Rizza. Come to think of it, when Locke pursued Rizza, he got beaten half to death, but when Akaya confessed, it just grossed her out a bit and that was it. It goes to show that Locke really deserved a beating, and Akaya was genuinely a good person. Chapter 91, Salamander. The three who were quietly gossiping had no solution to Rizza's troubles. But Rhodes had an idea to lighten her mood. The simplest way was to give her a strawberry cake. Then find a way to set up Natsu, making him knock over Rizza's table. Let Rizza naturally beat up Natsu to vent her emotions. A perfect plan. However, when Rhodes mentioned this, Lockie looked at him as if he were a devil. as expected from someone who could draw up blueprints for a guillotine. Lockie asked. But why don't you go yourself? Because I'm afraid of dying. Rhodes said matter-of-factly. Natsu grew up with her, he probably won't get beaten to death. Myra smiled sweetly. Sounds interesting. Lockie pointed at Rhodes and Myra respectively. You two devils. Rhodes waved his hand. Hey, I'm just saying. How could I set up Natsu like that? We're good friends. Teasing Natsu when he's motion sick on a carriage was because it was all Happy's idea. Myra looked at Rhodes and felt a bit pleased. He had joined the guild 2.5 months ago. From being reserved and unfamiliar at first, to now caring about his companions and occasionally coming up with mischievous ideas. Myra could feel that Rhodes was gradually integrating into the guild, slowly becoming close to everyone. That's wonderful. If we don't send Natsu, who else would be suitable? Myra asked with a smile. How about Elfman? Lockie was shocked. Are you really his sister? Gotta find time to spar with Elfman, Rhodes thought. Elfman also used takeover magic. Although he had some psychological issues, he still had decent combat power. Moreover. Anyway, from various aspects, it was necessary. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded. Hey, Myra, Rhodes, and Lockie, everyone's here. Warren? Myra smiled. Long time no see. Lockie thought for a moment. Feels like you haven't shown up for a long time. Don't you ever run out of money? Rhodes also said. You finally decided to show up, huh? Ah, because of that incident. Warren said embarrassedly. Here's the mission sheet from last time. Since that embarrassing incident happened last time, Warren hadn't dared to show up at the guild for a long time. When he had to take a mission, he would contact Myra from afar using his telepathy magic to ask for help in choosing, and then Rhodes would have Merc Wolf deliver it quietly. Lockie hadn't noticed this usually, so she didn't know about it and that's why she asked. Now, Warren had probably prepared himself to face that matter, or maybe he figured everyone had almost forgotten, so he finally decided to show up. Myra made a note. Okay, confirmed completion. Do you want to take the next one? Warren shook his head. No, I plan to take a break. By the way, our guild has been really active lately. Rhodes asked. How so? Warren said. Recently, every time I take a mission and show my guild mark, people ask me about the Fairy Queen. Lockie said. Mirza has always been famous, right? No, before, people didn't bring her up so frequently. Also. Warren pointed at Rhodes. The strongest newcomer, quite capable. Already featured in Sorcerer Weekly magazine. Rhodes laughed. That was just a coincidence, a coincidence. Not just you guys. On my way back this time, I also heard people talking about the salamander. Warren thought for a moment and repeated. Defeated a fire-breathing monster atop a volcano, just like a real fire dragon. That was probably about Natsu. Myra smiled. Salamander. That title suits Natsu quite well. Yeah, feels like our guild is becoming more and more remarkable. Warren looked at the still noisy tavern and said with some emotion. Usually it feels so noisy, but now I kind of miss this place. Myra and Lockie exchanged knowing smiles. Not just Warren. Many people felt this way after being away for a long time. Because this noisy place was their home. However, after watching for a little while, Warren couldn't help but dig in his ears. It's still so loud. Rhodes also laughed. When you're out and about, you might miss it a bit, but after coming back, you can find flaws anytime. That's more like it. Warren casually ordered a drink and took it himself, planning to find Max for a chat. In this guild, when you want to talk to someone but don't know who to find, seeking out Max is always a good choice. But many things often turn out differently than expected. Warren. You jerk, you really messed with us last time. Vegeta, wearing tight-fitting clothes, jumped out, posing like a snake fist, looking like he wanted to settle accounts with Warren. Well, there was a reason for that. Warren knew that his call for help last time had caused trouble for everyone, so he felt a bit guilty. We can't just let this go. Yeah, that's right. Several others immediately stood up to back him up. They weren't necessarily very angry, but just letting it go felt unsatisfying. Last time was my fault, I apologize to everyone. But... Warren looked at the pink-haired guy who was shouting the loudest. But Natsu, you weren't even there last time. Why are you the loudest? Ahahaha. Natsu laughed loudly, pressing his right fist into his left palm. Enough talk. Let's fight first. Though he said that, the first to make a move wasn't Natsu. That's right, be a man. Why are you hitting me? Actually, Elfman just swung a punch casually while shouting slogans, without even noticing who he hit. Anyway, the brawl started just like that, a group of people got involved, and Warren ended up not being the main target. Wine bottles and chairs flew around. Rhodes casually deflected a bottle flying towards Myra. Lockie raised a tray to block a cup flying at her, complaining. Isn't your favoritism a bit too obvious? Huh? No way. Rhodes denied flatly. You know I haven't been learning magic for long, I'm not good at fighting at all. Being able to block one is already my limit. Who would believe you? Lockie rolled her eyes. I've never seen you get hit by any of these things. Rhodes said. That's because I stay far away and always stay alert. It's just that Myra happens to be within my defensive range, and Lockie is too far away. The fight continued until a wine bottle hit the dazed Raisin on the head, and Natsu was sent flying by someone, crashing into the table in front of her. Ursa, so you're here. Ha ha, ha ha. Natsu began to sweat profusely. Natsu. Ursa's fist landed on Natsu's head with a thud, granting him baby-like sleep. And you all. This time, Ursa didn't stop them with words. Instead, after everyone was lying on the ground, a long sword appeared in her hand. Come on. If you want to fight, bring it on. Happy Weekly raised his hand from the side. They're already wiped out. Myra covered her mouth with one hand, smiling. Oh my, seems like she's recovered her spirits. Well, I'm off to the library. Rhodes chose to slip away. Just now, they were jokingly discussing who to send to provoke Ursa, but in the end. In fairy tale, such things don't require them to worry at all. Chapter 92, that is coming. Natsu's title of salamander was gradually spreading. Not around the fairy tale guild, but from the location of his last mission. People in Magnolia heard this nickname the latest, around late September, and by then, the rumors had become quite distorted. Perhaps only when Natsu caused another big incident would new rumors emerge to gradually correct the story. Even so, it still boosted fairy tale's fame a bit. In Oaktown, at Phantom Lord's Guild, what salamander? Just wait and see. There's no room for two dragons in this sky. So said Gagiel, the Iron Dragon Slayer whom Rhodes and Myra had once impersonated. Near a not-so-famous small guild, Natsu-san is so strong. One day, I will be like him and spread the name White Salamander across the entire continent. An 11-year-old boy with pale yellow hair developed such an aspiration. A deep red cat followed beside him. If it's you, Sting, you can definitely do it. Sting is the strongest. On the other side of the mountain, in the southern part of Fiori Kingdom, a little blue-haired girl said with longing, Carla, there's another dragon legend near that guild. Do you think they might know where Grandini is? A white cat poured cold water on her hopes. Don't get your hopes up. By the time such distant rumors reach here, they've already lost their original meaning. The white cat panicked and tried to keep a stern face. Don't just start crying at the drop of a hat. Be a little stronger. Partial takeover. Beast arm. Lizardman. Elfman's arm sprouted scales, and his hand transformed into a beastly claw. Partial takeover. Merc wolf's claw. Rhodes' arm shimmered with light spots, morphing into a wolf's paw. The two stepped forward, their arms swinging with a whooshing sound, accompanied by Elfman's shout, man. Thud. Elfman's fist struck the soft pad of Rhodes' palm, making a dull sound. Rhodes' wolf paw actually had a paw pad. And it provided a decent cushioning effect. Even so, the immense strength of Elfman's beast arm wasn't easy to handle. Merc wolves weren't exactly the type adept at frontal combat. After exchanging a few blows, Rhodes was showing signs of being overpowered. If he extended his wolf claws and tore with force, he could scratch through Elfman's scales. But it's one thing for companions to spar and get bruised, but drawing blood wouldn't look good. Rhodes stepped back a few paces, the merc wolf's arm disappearing. Looks like it's hard to beat you using only partial takeover. Full body takeover is fine too. If you're a man, come at me with everything you've got. Buddy, if I go all out, a swarm of monsters would be trampling over your face by now. Alright then, full body takeover. Scuttle Crab. Going all out was out of the question. There's no way he'd go all out against Myra's brother. Just practicing takeover magic and bonding a bit. Elfman was slightly stunned upon seeing Rhodes' full body takeover form, then tears nearly burst from his eyes. This form is truly manly. Compared to the fluffy wolf paw, this mechanical-looking crab armor probably hit Elfman's aesthetic more. Eyes shining, he charged forward to engage Rhodes in close combat. Beast arm. Iron bull. Elfman's right arm transformed into a metallic mechanical arm, possessing the strength of a bull and a hardness of metal. After a few hard clashes, Rhodes felt his exoskeleton was at risk of being shattered. Dude, this is water combat armor. A speed set. He lightly dodged Elfman's punch, his left arm transforming into a crab claw that firmly clamped onto Elfman's wrist. Then, grabbing his arm with his right hand, he rammed his shoulder into Elfman's chest. Utilizing strength from his waist and hips, he threw the big guy over. Boom. Elfman landed flat on his back. If falling counted as losing, he'd already been defeated. Rhodes felt he'd won a bit sneakily, but with someone like Elfman, he had to win first. Elfman sat up cross-legged, rubbing the back of his head, and said unhappily, Sometimes you fight like Natsu, sometimes like Kana, and other times like Jet. Fighting Rhodes felt like battling several people in succession. Sometimes, if he wasn't careful, his combat rhythm would be disrupted. Haha, I can't help it. Due to my lack of combat experience, the fastest way to get stronger is to learn a bit from everyone during fights. I haven't had time to develop my own style. If he had to define his style, Rhodes was best at ambushes and gang fights. Like merc wolves lurking to ambush, raptors attacking from the air, Krugs ambushing underground. But he couldn't possibly use the tactics he employed against Phantom Lord on Elfman. Rhodes released his takeover magic and extended a hand to the seated Elfman. Thanks for taking the time to practice with me. This is nothing to thank me for. Sister also asked me to, and your use of takeover magic is. Elfman's attitude was fine as he grabbed Rhodes' hand to stand up, but then his expression suddenly changed. Come to think of it, you're not learning takeover magic just to get close to my sister, are you? Rhodes shook his head. No, that was just a coincidence. When he decided to learn takeover magic, it was purely because it was strong. But what's a coincidence? A coincidence is fate. You'll call me brother-in-law sooner or later. Elfman patted the dirt off his clothes and prepared to leave. Let's spar again next time. I'll become even stronger. Man. Yeah, good luck. Rhodes also hoped he would grow stronger. The stronger, the better. It would be best if he could completely overcome his psychological barriers and use full-body takeover. That way, Myra's inner turmoil would also be greatly alleviated. After all, he was the person she cared about most now. At this moment, Myra appeared at the doorway. Elfman stopped in his tracks. Sister? Have you been watching all along? Myra waved her hand. No, I just got here. How did it go? Oh. A man doesn't lose. Man. Elfman shouted his catchphrase and entered the tavern. Myra looked at Rhodes. Rhodes raised his hand with a smile. Yes, I am the man he mentioned. Elfman couldn't refute, and with that, Myra understood the outcome. She laughed. Don't be discouraged, Elfman. Now then, Mr. Man, could you come help out? We're a bit short-staffed today. No problem. The tavern was indeed packed. Besides more than 20 tables, even the stools in front of the counter were all occupied. 1 order of Poro delicacy here. 2 orders over here. And 2 beers. Poro delicacy had officially made it onto the guild's menu. Many people were interested in a dish named after that cute little furball species. Of course, it initially caused a bit of misunderstanding. Everyone thought that heartless guy Rhodes had stewed warm. After a busy afternoon, Rhodes and Myra were cleaning up the dishes together. He asked, "Why are there so many customers today? Seems like it's been increasing since the day before yesterday." Myra said mysteriously, "Because many people have returned from outside, and recently, everyone in the guild hasn't been taking long-distance missions. Every year around this time, it's like this because that is coming." Rhodes looked at Myra. Although her slight forward lean, raised index finger, and playful wink were adorable, this kind of suspenseful behavior made people want to play along. Rhodes asked, "That? What is it?" Chapter 93, The Harvest Festival. Sometimes, responding appropriately can make someone more willing to share. But in the current situation, there was no need to respond particularly cleverly. Senior Mage Ms. Myra explained to the newcomer Rhodes, "It's the Harvest Festival. Magnolia holds a Harvest Festival every October. It's a celebration for everyone in the city." Oh, it's the Harvest Festival. Rhodes recalled that last month, he and Natsu had participated in a special early celebration just for them. In summary, it was eating, drinking, playing, making merry, dancing around bonfires, and freely expressing joy. Rhodes asked, "Is it necessary to neglect missions for this?" Myra said, "Of course. It's the grandest festival of the year, celebrating this year's harvest and praying for good fortune in the coming year. It's a very important event for everyone." Rhodes nodded. "I think I understand a bit now." He remembered that many places held harvest festivals in the autumn. For the locals, the importance of the harvest festival was akin to the new year. It's something that must be properly prepared for. Myra added, "It's not just ordinary celebrations. Our fairy tale, as the only mage guild in Magnolia, is responsible for hosting a magical parade on that evening. Everyone is staying in the guild to prepare for this parade. It's a famous large-scale parade throughout the entire continent of Ishkar. Even people from nearby villages and towns will come specifically to watch. At that time, the whole of Magnolia will be packed with people. Parade. The result of reading too much negative news was that when this word was mentioned, Rhodes couldn't help but think of undesirable meanings. In fact, the word itself isn't biased, it can refer to celebrations and commemorations, as well as demonstrations and protests. Obviously, what the guild was responsible for was a celebratory performance, and since it was specially entrusted to a mage guild, they probably needed to use magic. Rhodes asked. So what exactly do we need to do? What you need to do is hurry up and clean that table. Loki complained. Stop chatting. Honestly, my stomach is protesting. Humphrey, do two people need that long to clean one table? Myra said to Loki. Sorry, we'll be done soon. Rhodes quickly added. Sorry, I asked too many questions. Loki put her hands on her hips. Darn it, that made her even more annoyed. Rhodes picked up the dishes and carried them away on a tray, while Myra carefully wiped the tabletop clean. After that, it was lunchtime for the tavern staff. The fill-the-stomach segment, as Loki called it. But eating didn't stop them from continuing the previous topic. The most important part of the magical parade is the magic performances. They need to be magnificent and unique, fully showcasing our guild style. Ideally, people would see it and can't help but want to join us. Rhodes thought for a moment. If he participated in the parade by summoning a bunch of wild creatures running down the street, that wouldn't look good. Unless he had them perform some acts, like merkwolves jumping through flaming hoops. But then it would turn into a circus. Looks like there's nothing for me to do. My magic doesn't have any flashy effects. He couldn't very well cast a red buff on himself and then demonstrate hitting the fire dragon slayer with flames that hurt. Myra said. How could that be? Summoning so many creatures out of thin air is magnificent in itself. Exactly. How could there be nothing for you to do? Loki said. There's a big event you must participate in, and that is the Miss Fairy Tale Beauty Pageant. Rhodes looked at her. Me? Beauty pageant? Could it be any more ridiculous? Loki admired his thought process. Who said you're going to be a contestant? Aren't you going to vote? Myra will be participating. Myra lightly touched her cheek with one hand. Oh my, having Loki announce it so formally makes me feel a bit shy. Seems like there's something to look forward to? Rhodes thought for a moment. Wait, Loki, aren't you participating? No way. I can't beat Myra anyway, so entering is pointless. I hate pervy guys. Being stared at like that is uncomfortable. Loki waved her hand and said teasingly. And you still have the mood to care whether I participate? Why not talk about what you'd like to see Myra wear that day? Of course I'd like to see. Rhodes stopped himself. Don't ask me such things, it's a competition, I don't really understand. Make a little wish. Maybe Myra will agree. Loki tried to entice him. Like swimsuits, cat ears, bunny girl outfits. Aren't you tempted? Even if he was tempted, he couldn't say it out loud. Rhodes declared righteously. I'm not that kind of person. Myra laughed. It feels like what you're saying, Loki, is something Rizza would do. The specific content of the magical parade hadn't been finalized yet, so it was pointless for Rhodes to ask. According to Myra, in the past, there were many times when the guildmaster only assigned people on the day of the parade, and everyone improvised on the spot. Sometimes, even when arrangements were made, unexpected situations would occur, forcing them to adjust last minute. Anyway, no matter what, everyone would give their best effort on the day, and each time they deliver a visual feast. A rather free-form magic performance. That's why Fairy Tale's magical parade is so famous. It also fits Fairy Tale's style very well. Time passed day by day amidst Rhodes' busy schedule. These days, after work, he persisted in training until he was too exhausted to get up. Then he'd grit his teeth and summon the bramble back to cast red buff on himself. Although it couldn't restore his stamina, the healing effect could help eliminate the damage from overtraining. That way, when he woke up the next day, he wouldn't have severe after effects like sore back and leg cramps. However, after entering October, Rhodes temporarily slowed down his training plan. According to typical story tropes, such large festivals might have big events happening. It's necessary to maintain sufficient magic power and stamina to deal with unexpected situations. Moreover, recently Magnolia had an influx of tourists and merchants, who knows if a few bad guys had mixed in. It doesn't hurt to be cautious. Morning, Rhodes. You're energetic today as well. Brother Goodman, I didn't see you come over the past couple of days? Of course, it's because of that. Goodman pointed to several large boxes piled on the first floor. These days, our whole family has been working overtime, and we've finally produced so many finished products. We're waiting to make a big splash during the Harvest Festival. During the festival, sales of handicrafts like wood carvings and woven items should be good. That's a lot of hard work. I wish you prosperous business then. Ha ha ha, thank you. Goodman hung a string of colorful flags outside the shop, took out a pile of balloons, and prepared to blow them up and hang them. By the way, are you participating in the magical parade this year? That can't be said for sure. I'm still a newcomer who joined the guild 3 months ago. I know, the strongest newcomer. Even you know about that. It seemed that ordinary people also subscribed to Sorcerer magazine. As the harvest festival approached, almost every household was like Goodman's, putting up decorations like flags, balloons, and banners. The festive atmosphere was very strong. Pedestrians on the streets visibly increased, and various merchants were gearing up to make a big profit during this opportunity. Rhodes bid farewell to Goodman and headed to the guild with Warm. The little guy had grown from palm-sized to basketball-sized, still round and plump, restlessly running around Rhodes' feet. There were too many enticing aromas in the air. Warm was a bit dazzled. So Rhodes decided that when they got to the guild, he'd toss Warm into the kitchen to mooch food. In the name of helping develop Poro Delicacy version 2.0. Chapter 94, Will That Uncle Return? October 4th, X783. Clear skies. The sunlight was still strong but no longer scorching as in previous days. Not a single cloud graced the sky, making it appear exceptionally blue and vast. A gentle breeze blew frequently, not only stirring the various flags and balloons along the streets but also refreshing everyone's spirits. This must be what people mean by clear autumn skies and crisp air. Today, the guild was unusually full. People like Ursa, Natsu, and Gray, who hadn't gone on distant missions since returning from their last one, were all present. Ursa's good friend Biska was there, as was Alzik, who secretly paid attention to Biska. Macau and Wakaba, who had family ties and didn't particularly like taking missions far from home, were also around. Then there were slackers like Nab and Max, who didn't like taking missions as long as they could get by. Adding to that, Levy's Shadow Gear team, and Loke, who usually avoided Rhodes. Familiar faces like Warren, Ritas, and Vegeta were all present as well. With so many people, Rhodes was starting to worry that the guild might get torn apart. And yet, the guild master had gone out early in the morning, saying he had some matters to discuss with the mayor. In such a situation, the absence of the guild master made everyone uneasy. Finally made it back. Kana plopped herself down at the counter. Myra. Get me a drink. Welcome back, Kana. Myra poured her a glass. Kana cheerfully downed it in one gulp. Ah. That was great. I was dying of thirst. Another one. Oh my, not controlling your alcohol intake today? Myra smiled as she poured her another glass. Kana hesitated for a moment, then quickly said, because the festival is coming. The festival? How can I not drink at times like this? After she finished another glass, she took out the mission sheet to report her completion. Kana, you're back? Rhodes had just finished serving someone. You went somewhere quite far this time, didn't you? Rhodes, you seem even more energetic. Kana said leisurely. After setting out, I remembered that the Harvest Festival was approaching, so I completed the mission as fast as possible to get back. The fastest speed? Rhodes thought for a moment and asked, you didn't get the client drunk and trick them into signing while they were woozy, did you? Myra's small hand, which was writing, trembled. That did seem like something Kana might do. How could I do such a thing? Kana was displeased with Rhodes's malicious speculation, but then she laughed heartily, but that's a good idea. I'll have to try it next time, ha ha ha. Well. Myra didn't know what to say. She felt that Rhodes's thought process, combined with the guild's problem children, might cause even bigger troubles. Fortunately, Rhodes had a reliable personality. Kana waved her hand. Just kidding. Of course I'd rush back at times like this. I just saw the Thunder God tribe on the street. Even Luxus and his group have come back, right? Really? The guild master will be happy to know that Luxus has returned. Myra knew that the relationship between the guild master and Luxus was a bit tense and thought that this festival might be a good opportunity for the grandfather and grandson to mend their relationship. Hearing them mention Luxus, Rhodes thought of someone else. For an event like the magical parade, will Miss Togan make an appearance? Of course not. Kana said. At most, that guy will sneak back and blend into the crowd to watch our performance. Myra added. He might also be asked by the guild master to cast some spells to enhance the atmosphere, as long as he can hide and doesn't have to show himself. Hiding backstage to cast magic to enhance the atmosphere. Is Miss Togan a special effects artist? An S-class mage serving as a special effects artist. Fairy Tale is really extravagant, but what a troublesome person. Rhodes pondered whether Miss Togan might simply be more reserved than himself, rather than just having difficulties as the guild master said. Kana played with the empty glass in her hand and said seemingly casually, in that case, all the S-class mages in the guild have returned. I remember Loki mentioned that our guild has a super strong uncle. Rhodes recalled that he was also S-class. Will we see him this time? Kenna was secretly delighted, silently giving Rhodes a thumbs up, and almost held her breath waiting for Myra's answer. Myra thought for a moment and said, Guild Arts? I'm not sure, we haven't heard anything from him. Kenna unconsciously tightened her grip on the empty glass, her head lowered so her expression couldn't be seen. It's been 2 years now. What mission did that guy take on? Myra shook her head. I only know that the difficulty exceeds regular S-class missions. The mission content is confidential, even I don't know. And the mission location seems to be on another continent. Maybe because it's so far away, there's been no news. Rhodes asked. People on other continents know about our guild? Maybe. Myra asked. Are you interested in other continents, Rhodes? Rhodes nodded. A little. I'd like to see them if I have the chance. But it's too early to talk about that, I haven't even left the kingdom of Fior yet. Myra, another drink. No, bring me a barrel. Kenna looked up, smiling. I want to drink to my heart's content today. Sure, Myra assumed she was just happy because the festival was near. Actually, it was Kenna's sudden effort to control her drinking recently that seemed strange. Rhodes felt that something might be up. He could pay a bit more attention, but his main focus was still on how to solve Myra's problem. Kenna hugged the barrel and drank heartily. Occasionally, someone would come to chat, and they'd have a few drinks together. Rhodes also busied himself with his work. Not long after, the guild's door was pushed open heavily. Lixus had returned. Behind him were the 3 members of the Thunder God tribe. The tavern quieted down slightly. Some looked at Lixus with admiration, others glanced and went back to what they were doing, some wanted to greet him but couldn't bring themselves to. But the most proactive was Natsu. He jumped out immediately, rubbing his fists. You're finally back, Lixus. I've been waiting for you. Come and duel with me. Fried, with his long green hair, partially drew his sword, to challenge Lixus. You must first get past us, the Thunder God tribe. Daring to challenge Lixus. What an overconfident guy. Evergreen unfolded a fur-trimmed folding fan, posing like a noble woman. Overconfident, overconfident. Several strange dolls floated around Bixlow. The dolls spoke with him, creating a cacophony of voices even though he was alone. Natsu ignored them, focusing solely on his target. So, Lixus, are you afraid of losing to me? Lixus didn't care about his provocations and said nonchalantly. Oh, it's Natsu. If you want to fight, come on. Lixus? The 3 members of the Thunder God tribe were a bit puzzled. Since I'm quite bored, finding some fun before that boring festival starts isn't a bad idea. Lixus's indifferent attitude seemed somewhat arrogant. Come on, Natsu. Let me show you just how big the gap between us is. Chapter 95, Rhodes's Rules. Natsu was overjoyed. He couldn't remember when it started, but Lixus had been spending less and less time at the guild, making it impossible to find him. Even when Lixus did come to the guild, he always stayed on the 2nd floor, completely ignoring Natsu's challenges. Today, he finally caught him. And Lixus even agreed. Alright, let's begin. I'm all fired up. Natsu turned and started walking away. Evergreen snapped her folding fan shut with a clap. Pointing at Natsu's back as she asked, What are you doing? Running away before the fight even starts? Do you realize how strong Lixus is? Was your challenge just empty words because you're too afraid to fight? Huh? Natsu turned his head, puzzled. What are you talking about? Shouldn't we go to the backyard for a duel? Bixlow was confused. Since when did the guild have such a rule? His peculiar dolls fluttered around him, repeating. Since when? Since when? Rules? Rules. Rhodes massaged his temples. This guy is so noisy, and his guild mark is actually on his tongue? Myra explained. That's Bixlow's possession magic. He controls those dolls to fight. Usually, opponents are defeated before they even get close. Possession magic? Isn't that what the nab uses? Yes, but the nab uses animal soul possession, while Bixlow uses human possession. Although it's the same type of magic, their methods are completely different. Magic is free, and one can choose to use it in any way they like. Rhodes gained a bit more understanding. Upon hearing the word rules, Fried seemed to latch onto a keyword and said seriously, if such a rule exists, then we should abide by it, because rules are absolute. However, Natsu's earlier action was just subconscious. Now he was confused and turned to others. By the way, is there such a rule in the guild? 2 voices sounded simultaneously. There's no such rule. Of course there is. The onlookers immediately split into 2 factions. One believed that when it comes to fighting, you can fight wherever you like. The other thought that while it doesn't matter where you fight, challenges and duels should be held in the backyard. They couldn't even remember when this idea first took root. And the instigator, Rhodes, was oblivious. So, Is there such a rule or not? Myra chuckled softly. Don't you think those who believe in this rule look familiar? Rhodes looked carefully. They were all people he had challenged before. Huh? Did I make this rule? I was just afraid of breaking things in the tavern. Some things inexplicably become customary rules, like rock paper scissors, hand games, counting rhymes. Is there yet another boring thing in this guild? Lixus found it troublesome and flipped the coat draped over his shoulders backward. Fried naturally caught the coat and neatly draped it over his arm, looking like a... Rhodes rubbed his eyes and confirmed with Myra. Fried is a guy, right? Of course. Myra replied. But he's not good at socializing and appears in the guild only slightly more often than Miss Togan. Everyone doesn't know much about him. Another weirdo. In all sorts of ways. Lixus extended a hand and beckoned lightly at Natsu. Come on, Natsu. Dealing with you doesn't require a spacious place. Don't underestimate me. I've gotten much stronger. Natsu couldn't be bothered to change locations and charged straight ahead. Fire Dragon's iron fist. Lixus stood motionless, casually catching Natsu's wrist. Oh? Have you really gotten stronger? Jet exclaimed. He caught Natsu's punch so effortlessly. Troy remarked. Well, that is Lixus. Levi felt uneasy and leaned back, her head bumping into a hard breastplate. Ursa? A sense of security washed over her. Ursa watched the battle intently. After his fist was caught, Natsu immediately kicked, but Lixus easily blocked it and then flung Natsu away. Natsu flipped in midair, landed, and charged again, launching a relentless barrage of punches and kicks. Although all his attacks were blocked, Ursa nodded in satisfaction. Yes, Natsu has indeed become stronger. Stronger? He is being completely overpowered. Gray commented, thinking the fight had lasted this long only because Lixus wasn't serious. Happy ran over to Kanna. I've changed my mind. I'm betting on Lixus to win. Kanna refused. Too late. Bets are closed. How can that be? Happy had no choice but to turn around. Natsu, you can do it. Loke laughed. Is that the only way you'll cheer for Natsu? Man. Once again, Lixus repelled Natsu, golden sparks flickering on his arm. If this is all you've got, it's a bit disappointing. Hey. You're really strong. Natsu instead laughed, taking a deep breath. Fire Dragon's roar. The onlookers quickly retreated. As experienced wizards, they knew better than to get caught in the crossfire. Unfortunately, the floor and tables weren't so lucky. Some were scorched, others blown away. Rhodes felt a pang in his heart. This is why I prefer fighting outside. Lixus stood there unmoving, arms crossed, letting the flames engulf him. Natsu wiped the corner of his mouth, excitedly shouting. How was that move, Lixus? Lixus waved his hand, golden sparks flickering around him, and the flames had already vanished. Huh? What was that? He then dusted off his clothes. Forget it, I'm bored now. A golden lightning bolt materialized out of thin air, enveloping Natsu. Ah! As Natsu screamed in pain, Lixus turned to leave, and Fried was ready to hand him his coat. However, Natsu's voice rang out, it's not over yet. As the lightning dissipated, smoke rose from Natsu's body, but he was still smiling. I'm not a kid you can easily defeat anymore. Oh? Lixus looked at the charging Natsu, a cold smile appearing on his face. Seems you can entertain me a bit longer. Fire Dragons. Ugh. Natsu took a heavy blow to the abdomen, followed by hits to his face, chest, and back. Lightning-infused punches and kicks rained down on Natsu, leaving him powerless to fight back. Bang. With a final strike, Natsu collapsed to the ground. Lixus rolled his neck. You sure are resilient. That's the only thing worth praising. Still not willing to admit defeat? Not yet. Natsu staggered as he stood up again. Persistent brat. You should understand the gap in our power by now. Lixus raised his right fist, releasing an astonishing amount of magic power as lightning gathered around him. Sensing something was wrong, Mirza couldn't help but try to stop him. Lixus. But she was a step too late. The terrifying lightning enveloped Natsu, the blinding light making it impossible to see his figure. Ah! Natsu. Happy was frightened this time, tears welling up in his eyes. However, Natsu's screams didn't last long. Instead, the lightning quickly dimmed, eventually being absorbed into Natsu's mouth like flowing water. What? Even Lixus couldn't hide his surprise, his face showing astonishment. Chapter 96, Can't stay cool for more than 3 seconds. Everyone else was equally stunned. Isn't Natsu only able to eat fire? Did that guy just eat Lixus's lightning? Happy was thrilled. Natsu. Ahahaha. I'm not afraid of your lightning anymore, Lixus. For a moment, an astonishing amount of magic power erupted from Natsu, but after taking 2 steps, he began to stumble. Take this. Huh? Lixus. Natsu wobbled and, with a thud, collapsed to the ground. Natsu. Everyone rushed over. Myra knelt down to check on Natsu's condition. He doesn't seem injured, perhaps he can't digest Lixus's lightning. Mirza held her forehead, thinking he had truly mastered the ability to consume lightning magic. Gray, who had just been worried, clicked his tongue. That idiot. Natsu. Happy was concerned. Is he really okay? Myra patted Happy's head. He should be fine, but it's best to have Granny Poorly Uzuka examine him. Lixus's budding fighting spirit was interrupted. The lightning around him dissipated as he turned away coldly. Boring. Freed draped Lixus's coat over his shoulders, and the group left together. Rhodes frowned. Why did they even come? They showed up and then left. Did they just clock in at the guild? I'll take Natsu to Granny Poorly Uzuka's place. Rhodes said, having previously called her ma'am but now consciously following Myra's lead in addressing her. That's nice, calling her Granny feels even more affectionate. Rhodes summoned a scuttle crab, and together with Gray, they lifted Natsu onto its back to lie down. He was initially worried about handling Natsu too roughly and causing bumps or bruises. But seeing Gray being even rougher, almost wanting to kick Natsu up there, Rhodes immediately felt at ease. No big deal, Natsu is a tough kid. Rhodes climbed onto the crab, taking Natsu and Happy along as they rumbled away from the guild. The door frame being scratched a bit by the crab's shell was a minor issue. Not nearly as much damage as Natsu's earlier roar attack. The others relaxed. Those who needed to settle bets did so, those who needed to repair the guild began repairs. Emergency patient coming through. Make way, make way. Rhodes experienced the feeling of a crab crossing the street. Domineering and unimpeded. Although the scuttle crab didn't walk sideways. There were quite a few pedestrians on the streets. Many local residents recognized Rhodes's crab. Tourists, seeing locals calmly making way, weren't afraid either. As expected of a city where magic thrives. Magical beasts running all over the streets. After leaving the city, they finally didn't have to shout to clear the way. Rhodes poked Natsu's face, noticing that his current condition was much worse than his usual motion sickness. Was this considered food poisoning? Happy, can Natsu eat magic other than flames? I don't know, I've never seen him eat anything else. But he does eat my fish. Fish aren't magic. So he just got impulsive and thought he'd try eating it first? That's too unreliable. Rhodes signaled the crab to speed up, and soon they arrived at Poorly Uzuka's treehouse. Happy, go knock on the door. Happy flew over but immediately flew back. Rhodes, I don't dare to go. She dislikes humans, not cats. I'm not an ordinary cat. Hey. Rhodes had seen through Happy. Happy's standards were flexible, whether he considered himself a cat depended entirely on the situation. Having no choice, Rhodes went to knock on the door himself. Poorly Uzuka, who came to the door, didn't look pleased. What are you here for? Used up the antidote already? No, it's that Natsu's condition seems off, so we'd like to ask you to take a look. Rhodes pointed to Natsu lying on the crab's back. He ate Lexus's lightning during their duel. Another reckless fool. That idiot Makarov. Can't he discipline them properly? Grumbling, Poorly Uzuka went to examine Natsu. Wait here. Poorly Uzuka returned inside, seemingly not intending to let them in. Rhodes, Natsu won't be okay, right? Happy asked worriedly. Judging by Granny Poorly Uzuka's attitude, he should be fine. Rhodes speculated based on his understanding of her. Otherwise, she'd have us carry Natsu inside or dig a hole on the spot. A few minutes later, Poorly Uzuka came back holding a test tube and poured the potion inside down Natsu's throat. Is that all? Rhodes asked. It's not that simple. Poorly Uzuka said irritably. He'll be weak for a while. When you go back, tell him to rest well and not to eat random things in the future. Natsu? Happy patted Natsu's cheeks. But why isn't he waking up? Poorly Uzuka waved her hand. Step aside. Happy obediently moved away, only to see Poorly Uzuka punch Natsu in the stomach. Bleg. Natsu folded up like a stapler, bending in half, then naturally flopped back down. Ouch. That hurts. Natsu woke up, clutching his stomach with a pained expression. What are you doing? Happy exclaimed angrily. Rhodes also said. Granny, isn't hitting a patient going too far? You wanted me to wake him up. Poorly Uzuka retorted, irritated by people who disregard everything when they fight. If he's fine now, hurry up and leave. Go back quickly. We'll go now, sorry to bother you. Rhodes said. Let's go, Happy. Although Natsu had been punched again, at least he'd receive treatment. Doctors must know their limits when hitting patients. Consider it part of the medical fee. Rhodes forgave her on Natsu's behalf. Poorly Uzuka suddenly called out to Rhodes. Wait a moment. Yes. Oh, is there something you need my help with? Poorly Uzuka looked at Rhodes and frowned. Have you been through many battles recently? No, just occasional sparring with companions and regular training. Poorly Uzuka seemed a bit angry, pointing a finger at him but momentarily speechless. Rhodes didn't understand her emotions. You. Wait here. The way she said it made Rhodes want to run away immediately. A moment later, Poorly Uzuka returned with a cloth bundle and thrust it into Rhodes's hands. Dissolve the medicine inside with warm water. After each workout, use the solution to massage any sore muscles. Don't randomly use all sorts of external medicines. How did you know Enough, get out. Oh. Thank you. Rhodes pulled Natsu and Happy along, riding the crab away. After they had gone some distance, Poorly Uzuka stomped her foot like an angry little girl, venting her frustration. Idiots. All of fairy tale are idiots. The old ones and the young ones never let people have peace of mind. The youngsters are even more reckless, one after another. Do you think your bodies belong to someone else? Idiots. Idiots. Still not satisfied after scolding, she grabbed a broom and started whacking a big tree. That idiot Mikarov, how on earth is he educating these kids? One after another. Chapter 97, What to Do. Don't think about running away, Lixus. You're in this condition and still thinking about Lixus? Rhodes patted Natsu's head. How about challenging me instead? Watch me beat you up. I'll bet on Rhodes winning. Now that they knew Natsu was alright, Happy showed no mercy in making fun of him. Natsu weakly began to argue with Happy. The more Happy argued, the more enthusiastic he became. With Natsu like this, he felt like a fight would be no problem. Rhodes opened the cloth pouch, finding several bags of powdered medicine inside along with a note detailing usage instructions. How did she figure it out? He had been training hard recently, but he always used the red buff to recover. He also applied some ointments and didn't feel discomfort. Rhodes, the smell of medicine on you is so strong, it's making me want to throw up. Smell? Rhodes sniffed his arm, then held it to Happy. Does it smell? Happy sniffed. No fish smell. I'm not asking about fish. It must have been a very faint scent, only noticeable up close. And Natsu had noticed. Could Granny Poorly Uzuka have smelled it too? Or did she see something about my complexion or stiff muscles? Looks like the life recovery power of the red buff isn't perfect. I shouldn't push myself too much. When they returned to the guild, the floor and furniture were all back to normal. Likely thanks to Lucky. Natsu followed Rhodes and Happy into the guild, looking listless like a zombie. Are you alright, Natsu? As soon as they entered, someone asked about Natsu's condition, but Natsu ignored them. Happy answered in his place. Granny Poorly Uzuka said a few days of rest would do the trick. Seeing that Natsu had no particular direction and was simply following him, Rhodes thoughtfully brought him to Riz's table. Riza, I need to get back to work. I'll leave Natsu with you. Leave it to me. Riza pulled Natsu over. Rhodes heard a clang sound. He touched his forehead. That familiar sound of a head hitting armor. Ha ha ha. Rhodes resisted laughing. When he returned to the counter, Myra greeted him, then asked. Is Natsu alright? Rhodes nodded. Yeah, he'll just be weak for a while. Some rest should do him good. That's a relief. What's that? Myra noticed the cloth pouch in Rhodes's hand. Granny Poorly Uzuka suddenly gave me some medicine. Myra's work paused. Are you pushing yourself again? Rhodes felt slightly guilty. Not really, just tried a bit of regular extreme training. Myra looked at him. How do regular and extreme even go together? I'm just trying to find the fastest way to get stronger. I've been easing up lately, I'll figure out the right training intensity soon. Hopefully, I can find a balance before the medicine runs out. Seeing Granny Poorly Uzuka's attitude today, Rhodes felt a bit scared. If I accidentally overdo it and ruin myself, I wouldn't even know where to cry. But thinking back to how casually Lixus beat Natsu today, if I stop working hard, it'll be forever impossible to beat him and Miss Togan. Rhodes looked at the medicine pouch. There's enough here for a while, might as well keep training. Myra fell silent, and Rhodes felt uneasy. Aren't you going to say something? Like what? Myra kept her head down, writing in the register. You're right. Everything you said makes sense, and you have plans for the future, which is good. Oh. Rhodes felt the atmosphere wasn't right. He should say something. Reason with her? But she just said I'm right. Apologize? Out of nowhere, how would that make sense? Joke around? I was already told to stop earlier. Coax her? No, we're not at that stage yet. Ignoring it would be the worst option. Just then, Cook's voice rang out. Table 6, grilled lamb ribs, 4 Seasons pizza. Got it. Rhodes placed the pouch on the counter and went to the kitchen to pick up the dishes. As he passed by Myra with a tray, he paused, hesitated for a moment, and quietly said, "Thank you." Myra's pen paused, and she looked up, her gaze softening as she watched Rhodes walk away. After a busy day, it was finally time to clock out. Rhodes helped Myra and the others clean up the Guild Tavern. Once the chores were done, they bid each other goodbye, and Rhodes headed for the backyard. Lockie asked, "Going to practice again?" "Yeah, I've been so busy these past few days that I haven't had time to practice magic during the day," Rhodes replied. "Lock the doors, I'll head out through the backyard later." "Take over." Rhodes transformed into his scuttle crab form, practicing the associated skills for a few rounds before canceling the magic. "Take over, Merc Wolf." Light flickered across Rhodes's body, his figure becoming taller, covered in wolf fur, transforming completely into a werewolf. Although he had taken on the form of a twin-headed wolf, he didn't grow a second head. Instead, a shadowy wolf figure circled him. Rhodes could control the shadow wolf to lunge and bite as easily as moving his own hands and feet. While in this form, not only did his strength and coordination improve, but he could also sneak around silently in the shadows, with his sense of smell greatly enhanced. Especially sensitive to the scent of blood. After training in Merc Wolf form for a while, Rhodes cancelled the magic, ensuring he saved enough magic power for the next summoning. He then started high-intensity training using the equipment in the yard. Rhodes trained until he was almost out of stamina, eventually lying on the ground to catch his breath, summoning the bramble back to apply the red buff to himself. "So tired. Why do I do this to myself?" Determination is determination, but complaining is still complaining. Rhodes closed his eyes, silently waiting for the effect of the red buff. The sensation of his strength slowly recovering and the fatigue ebbing away felt very comfortable. Comfortable enough that it felt like someone was gently wiping the sweat from his face with a warm towel. Rhodes opened his eyes. "Myra? You haven't gone home yet?" Myra was squatting beside him, gently tucking her hair behind her ear. "Since I had to do inventory on the alcohol and make a list for tomorrow's supplies, it took a bit longer. I heard your voice in the yard, so I came to check." Rhodes believed her. Just coming to check, with a prepared towel and even mixing the medicine. Very normal. Myra's hand gradually tightened. "What are you smiling about?" "Ouch, ouch, ouch." Rhodes hurriedly wiped off his smile. "I was just thinking, aren't you going to tell me to stop for a bit?" Chapter 98, Shall I walk you home? What reason should I use to stop you from moving forward? Myra put down the towel, pulled Rhodes up to sit, then dipped into the prepared medicinal solution to help him apply it. Rhodes smiled. "This scene feels familiar." Yes, there was someone covered in wounds, unable to communicate, needing help changing bandages. Now he's uninjured, can communicate, and still needs help applying medicine. Rhodes joked. Who is this person? Only knows how to trouble others, really annoying. Slap. A palm landed on his back. Rhodes took a sharp breath, whether it hurt or not, he'd pretend it hurt a lot. Myra suddenly said. "Tomorrow, I'll come practice with you." Ah. Having someone accompany him was certainly good. Why the sudden decision? "I'll help you quickly find the most suitable plan, so you won't end up like this." And Myra lowered her eyes. Besides, she didn't want to continue feeling down. Myra wasn't sure if doing some simple training would be helpful. Wanting to regain her magic power and use takeover magic again wasn't an easy thing. But if she could persist like Rhodes, be as positive as Natsu, at least Elfman would feel more at ease. If this could encourage Elfman to overcome the shadow cast by that incident, it's something she should do as an older sister, right? Right now, this is all she could do. "It's already so late, didn't Elfman wait for you?" "Yes, I told him to go home earlier." "Then I'll walk you home," Rhodes said naturally. Recently, many tourists have came to town. It's not very safe for a girl to walk alone at night. "Sure." Myra smiled. "But we're going in different directions, you'll have to take a long detour to get home." "No problem. By the time I get you home, my recovered magic power should be enough to summon the crab." Actually, his magic power right now. Well, it definitely wasn't enough. "Then I'll trouble you." Myra held her small bag with both hands naturally hanging in front of her, smiling slightly, adding a touch of charm to the night scene. When the two left the guild, it was already past 9 in the evening. There were no street lights, they could only rely on the faint glow from the windows of houses along the street. There were also small festive lights prepared for the celebration, twinkling on and off. Staring at them too long could make one feel a bit dazzled. The weather was excellent today, with a sky full of stars accompanied by a crescent moon. Unlike modern big cities, here one could watch the starry sky without interference from city lights. The two walked slowly along the road, The streets were silent and empty, occasionally accompanied by the chirping of insects. Rhodes asked, "Are you renting a house here too?" Myra said, "No, we bought one a few years ago." Bought? Rhodes almost forgot that the person beside him might be a little rich lady. "Yes, about 3 years ago, we decided to settle down here. I thought that if we had a house of our own, Elfman and Lisanna would feel more secure." She could now mention Lisanna to Rhodes quite naturally. 3 years ago, she was only 15. The age when, according to this country's laws, one could just start drinking alcohol. Rhodes thought about himself at 15. Can't compare, can't compare. Not just him. Many girls in the guild chose to live in dormitories, partly for convenience, partly because they couldn't save enough money. Like Ursa. If she wanted, she definitely had the ability to buy a house in a short time. But she'd rather spend 500,000 jewels a month to rent 5 dorm rooms to store her armors and various outfits. Then she'd invest the remaining money into new armors, new clothes, and all kinds of desserts. Kanna also had this ability, but she had a house left by her late mother and unknown father, so she didn't need to work too hard. A girl like Myra, saving money with her younger siblings to settle down here. Not only strong in earning but also skilled in managing a household. Rhodes asked. "It wasn't easy, was it?" "Yes, at that time, we worked desperately to save enough money. The 3 of us went through a lot. When someone talks about hardships and believes it was worth it, and can smile about it, does that mean she's relatively happy now?" Myra spoke with a slight smile as she recounted, "During that time, we worked tirelessly, and when I came to my senses, I had been selected as an S-class candidate." "Wow, can becoming S-class be achieved by working hard? I thought you were striving to compete with Ursa, fighting every day, battling from the guild all the way to the exam site. In the middle, defeating an innocent Kanna before continuing to fight Ursa, and after the fight, you pass the exam. Don't exaggerate." Myra laughed. "Although it's not far off. At that time, when I heard Ursa was going to be an examiner, I got really fired up. Looking back now, rushing to fight Ursa, I feel my attitude toward Kanna during the exam was quite overboard. Kanna was really pitiful. Speaking of which, young Kanna was very cute, and so was Ursa. Have you seen photos of them when they were little?" "I haven't." Rhodes was not just curious about their childhood appearances. "Does the guild have photo albums?" "Of course, and there are also Rita's sketchbooks." "Let me think." Myra pondered for a moment. "They should be in some corner of the library. I'll look for them tomorrow." "Are you that interested?" "Of course. I'm not just curious about them, I'm also very curious about what the she-devil looked like." "Oh my." Myra touched her cheek with one hand. "I feel a bit shy. I looked a bit different back then. Now I'm even more looking forward to it." Rhodes said. "You weren't tanned, chubby, and covered in freckles as a child, only to grow up to be this beautiful, right?" Myra raised her handbag as if to hit him. Was that a compliment or not? Myra's house was an ordinary 2-story building, not much different in style from the common houses near the guild. When Rhodes escorted her downstairs, the lights in the house were still on. Elfman was waiting for her to return. Looking at the windows glowing with light, it felt different from returning to his own dark house. "Would you like to come in for a bit? It's already late, maybe next time." Rhodes felt that going in now might result in a fight with Elfman, which wasn't necessary. He summoned a scuttle crab, climbed on, and waved to Myra. "See you tomorrow." Myra stood at the doorway and replied. "See you tomorrow." Home, huh? Rhodes felt a bit envious. The big family of the guild was one kind of happiness, having one's own small family was another kind of warmth. Riding on the back of the crab, enjoying the cool night breeze, Rhodes waved his hand and summoned Warm. Warm, now grown to the size of a basketball, was a perfect cuddle pillow. Rhodes hugged it. Warm and soft. Humphrey. Warm struggled to escape his clutches. This person had suddenly sent it back earlier, and now suddenly summoned it again. It was still angry. "I sent you back earlier to speed up my magic recovery. Definitely not because you were a third wheel." Warm's little horn drooped downward. "Not believing, not happy." Rhodes whispered devilishly. "Fried eggs, scrambled eggs, poached eggs, egg custard, egg drop soup." Warm's little horn perked up slightly but tried hard to press it down. Rhodes thought for a moment. "How about I give you a bath, massage your back, and rub your tummy later?" Purr. Warm became happy, snuggling in Rhodes's arms. Chapter 99, Was the gentle girl next door I like once a delinquent? "Good morning, Brother Goodman, and who is this?" As Rhodes came downstairs, he saw a lady busy working alongside Goodman. "Morning. This is my wife, Molly." Goodman first introduced his wife, then introduced Rhodes. "This is Mr. Rhodes I mentioned to you, the one renting our second floor." "Hello, Mr. Rhodes." My husband says you're a very skilled wizard. Hello. I've also heard Brother Goodman say he has a virtuous and beautiful wife. I didn't expect you to surpass his description by so much. Mrs. Molly glanced at Goodman, a bit embarrassed. You're too kind. Behind her, Goodman gave a thumbs up, then said earnestly, since we might be quite busy these days, I asked her to come help out. Later, we can also stroll around the festival together. Rhodes said enviously. You two have such a good relationship. This couple, whose children were already old enough to buy soy sauce, actually felt a bit shy when Rhodes said that. Rhodes bid farewell to this loving couple and headed to the guild. On the way, he encountered two wizards fighting, knocking over a roadside stall. He wanted to intervene, but the shop owner himself grabbed the two and scolded them. The two guys obediently apologized and paid for the damages. After being forgiven, they resumed fighting in the middle of the street. Rhodes looked at the guild marks on them. Sure enough, they were from Fairy Tale. He tugged at his sleeve to cover his own guild mark and casually walked around them as if nothing had happened. Rhodes didn't know these people. Today, the guild was slightly quieter than yesterday because Natsu still didn't have the energy to cause a ruckus. Happy, acting nonchalant, finished his own fish and then went to take the regular food that Natsu had ordered. Rhodes ruffled Natsu's cherry-colored hair, finding it quite pleasant to touch. Why does it seem like Natsu's condition has worsened? Didn't he rest well yesterday? Natsu weakly said. I won't forgive you, Rhodes. Huh? Won't forgive me? Isn't it Luxus you won't forgive? Because yesterday, Rhodes left Natsu in Riza's care. Happy munched on Natsu's breakfast, eating with great relish. Ha. Ha ha. Rhodes laughed awkwardly. When Riza gets serious, she should be able to take care of people, right? Because Riza saw Natsu suffering and felt sorry for him, so she knocked him unconscious. Happy paused and added. 5 times. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Rhodes realized he had underestimated Riza's eccentricity. He thought at most she'd playfully bump helmets or wrap him in bandages. He didn't expect her to be so heavy-handed. He couldn't imagine if Riza became a mother in the future, and her child fell and couldn't get up, would she draw her sword on the spot? Can't stand up? Looks like your leg is broken. Hold still, Mommy will help you amputate. If you're afraid of pain, Mommy can knock you out first before cutting. Rhodes shivered. Myra was definitely better. Loki called out from the counter. Rhodes, come over quickly. Myra has something good to show you. Myra showed Rhodes the photo album and sketchbook in her hands. You've already found them. Rhodes looked expectantly as she opened the sketchbook. The appearance of the guild from a few years ago unfolded before Rhodes, page by page. Worm anxiously circled around Rhodes's feet. As its body size expanded, its jumping ability had greatly decreased. Now, it struggled to even get onto a stool, let alone the counter. Rhodes had to pick it up so it could look along. Wow, this is from a few years ago? Myra thought for a moment. About 4 or 5 years ago? This drawing was made by Ritas when Natsu had just found Happy's egg and insisted it was a dragon egg. Rhodes looked closely. So this is Happy? The color matches. Loki pointed at Natsu. Natsu's scarf has always been that one. Myra said. Because it was given to him by his foster father. It's a very important scarf. Rhodes skipped over this somewhat sad topic. Gray really has liked taking off his clothes since he was little, and Riza has been wearing armor since she was young. Loki said. Riza was this cute back then? Rhodes asked. Loki, when did you join the guild? Haven't you seen what Riza looked like as a child? About 2 years ago, I think. Back then, Riza was already about the same as now. Loki seemed a bit regretful. After a pause, Loki added. Just looking at this drawing, Mikau was quite handsome back then. Did Ritas get bribed by him? Myra laughed. No, Mikau really looked like that when he was young. The guild master hasn't changed much. Loki nudged Rhodes with her elbow. Hey, after looking for so long, don't tell me you haven't recognized which one is Myra? Not exactly. It's just that her demeanor is so different now, it's hard to believe. Rhodes asked. Myra, did you not get along with Ritas back then? Not at all. Ritas drew very well. Except for Happy, everyone looks exactly the same. Myra looked at herself in the drawing and asked. What do you think? Were you scared? Rhodes shook his head. Not exactly scared. It's another kind of cuteness, just a bit different from what I imagined. Was the gentle girl next door I like once a delinquent? Seems a bit like Sawa-chan. Myra flipped through the sketchbook and album page by page, explaining the stories behind the drawings. When turning to her own past photos, she occasionally glanced at Rhodes's reactions. Rhodes felt a bit complicated. He realized he didn't know enough about Myra. He tried hard to remember these bits of information that weren't very useful. Not just for Myra, but also because he yearned for those interesting memories everyone shared. At some point, Mirza noticed them and came over to look as well. It seems a lot happened, it's a bit nostalgic. As she spoke, Mirza was looking at a picture where she stood in the middle, with Natsu and Gray each pouting and looking to the sides. They had expressions of not wanting to take a photo together but not daring to defy Mirza. Why did even this drawing get kept? Gray immediately spotted a drawing where he had a big bump on his head. Myra said. Because they're all precious memories, and they're very interesting. Yes, yes. Mirza folded her arms and nodded earnestly. Only Gray didn't want to recall those times. Even Luxus was so cute back then. Loki found a small Luxus. Rhodes looked at the lively and adorable Luxus and wondered. When did that guy start becoming the way he is now? Gray said. Who knows? Maybe it was after the guild master drove away his son, Luxus's father. Mirza said. Gray, the guild master doesn't want us to talk about this. Rhodes patted Gray's shoulder and pointed behind him. Gray turned to see his clothes, then looked down at his own boxer shorts. When did that happen? Chapter 100, The guild master wants to retire. Humans are social creatures, and the love of watching the excitement might stem from that nature. At first, it was just Myra wanting to show Rhodes the photo album, and Loki directly joined in when she found out. Then Mirza and Gray came over to see what was going on. After that, Mikau and Wakaba joined in. These two veteran members knew more about the guild than even Myra did. After all, their entire youth was spent here. The stories of these two older members attracted even more onlookers, and soon the counter area was surrounded, layer upon layer. At first, it was all laughter and conversation, but when Mikau revealed one of Wakaba's embarrassing moments, Rhodes instinctively felt something was off. Myra, let's sneak away quietly, okay? Sneak away? Why? Myra was hearing a lot of things she didn't know before and was finding it interesting. Just then, Wakaba turned the tables and revealed one of Mikau's embarrassing moments. Rhodes immediately grabbed Myra's wrist, leading her quietly around the counter. If we don't leave now, it'll be too late. Rhodes? Myra, being pulled by Rhodes, squeezed through the less crowded area. When Rhodes looked back at her face, he suddenly had the feeling they were eloping. After squeezing out of the crowd and arriving at the door to the guild's back hall, Myra looked back to see that the reminiscing had suddenly turned into an exchange of insults. When the first person threw a punch, a chaotic brawl quickly ensued. Oh dear. Myra put her right hand in front of her mouth. Rhodes, do you have some kind of special ability to avoid trouble? It's just a little bit of caution. Rhodes was intently watching the battlefield. When a tray flew over, Rhodes immediately stepped in front of Myra, deftly catching it. Myra noticed that Rhodes looked a bit cool at that moment. A day full of energy began with a brawl. If Natsu hadn't eaten lightning yesterday, it could have been even livelier. It also would have given Mirza more people to hit while trying to stop the fight. Makarov had just walked into the guild with two old friends, only to see a group of people diligently repairing the guild. Veins bulged on the old man's forehead. You idiots, can't you behave for even one day? I'm sorry, master. I should have kept them in check. Though it was something that happened often, Mirza had an expression of regret, as if she had committed some great mistake. Ha ha ha. The guild's still the same, eh, Makarov? Said an elderly man wearing sunglasses. Seems like you've got a lot of lively kids here, little Makarov. Said another elderly man, about the same height as the guildmaster. Makarov sighed helplessly. I didn't bring you here just for this. Mirza recognized the two people that master had brought along. You must be Goldmine, the guildmaster of the Quattro Cerberus, and Yajima, the sixth seat of the council. Yajima smiled. Hello. You must be Mirza. Just as beautiful and dependable as the rumors say. Mirza responded modestly. You're too kind, sir. I still have much to improve. Goldmine added. Ah, the Fairy Queen's reputation has even reached us. How about considering joining our guild? Hey, don't poach in front of me. Makarov's arm stretched out, patting Goldmine's back. Mirza answered gracefully. Thank you for the offer, but Fairy Tale is my home. Myra also recognized the two men and led Rhodes over to greet them. Welcome to Fairy Tale, Mr. Yajima and Mr. Goldmine. Seeing the three most reliable people standing together, Makarov beamed with pride. Ha ha ha, aren't our guild members wonderful? Goldmine said. You've managed the guild splendidly, Makarov. Yajima, seeing Makarov's ever more complacent smile, added, if they could cause less trouble, that would be even better. Once I retire and no one's left to speak for you in the council, you'll eventually be ordered to disband. Makarov's smile froze. Honestly, don't say such discouraging things at a time like this. Alright. In that case, you can treat me to some Fairy Tale special ramen. Yajima said, spreading his arms. With 10 slices of pork, please. Makarov shouted. That's too much. Yajima lowered his hands. Make it 12, then. Makarov retorted. Stop upping it on your own. Goldmine chimed in. I'll have the same, then. Makarov's head enlarged comically as he leaned over to Goldmine's ear. You pay for it yourself. Ursa, Myra, and Rhodes couldn't help but laugh. No wonder these people were friends of the guildmaster. They fit right in with Fairy Tail. In the end, Makarov still treated his two old friends to ramen, each with 12 slices of pork. And out of spite, he added 13 slices to his own. The three elderly men sat at the counter, slurping noodles. A rare sight. One couldn't help but wonder if they were like this when they were young. Bickering non-stop, and whoever lost or got caught had to treat the others. Friendship that lasts from youth to old age, from black hair to white. It's enviable. Fairy Tail's special ramen is indeed the best. Yajima praised. Maybe after I retire, I'll open a ramen shop. Goldmine added. Make sure to invite me when it opens. I'll definitely go and eat for free. Yajima responded. I'll invite Fairy Tail wizards to help me kick out freeloaders. Makarov laughed. No problem. I'll send the strongest team to deal with him. Ha ha ha. The elderly men were having a great time chatting. Yajima asked. How's poorly Uzuka doing these days? Makarov said. Still the same, living alone in the forest. That's too lonely. Haven't you thought about inviting her to move out? Goldmine stuffed the last piece of pork into his mouth and mumbled. It's a pity you two never got married back then. This sounds like juicy gossip. Rhodes discreetly moved closer. Myra was already standing in front of the three and didn't move, but her smile grew even wider. Ursa couldn't help but lean in, though her face turned slightly red at the mention of marriage. Could it be that the guildmaster and poorly Uzuka were, as Happy would say, involved? Makarov, oblivious to the actions of the three younger ones, complained. That was ages ago. Why bring it up now? Yeah, in a blink of an eye, so many years have passed. Yajima said. Have you thought about who the next guildmaster might be? The next one, huh? Makarov looked troubled. If there were a suitable candidate, he would have retired long ago. Originally, Lixus was the perfect choice, but he was going through a rebellious phase. Guild Arts had enough power, but his personality was problematic, and now there was no news from him. Miss Hogan's situation obviously wasn't suitable. Ursa was still too young, and Myra had even bigger issues. As for Kana, Natsu, Gray. He didn't even dare to imagine what they'd do as guildmaster. As for other outstanding new members, Makarov's gaze swept over Rhodes, who was eavesdropping on the gossip. This kid was excellent in many ways, but he needed a few more years to grow in terms of power and reputation. As for his personality, for a simple escort mission, not even an official one, he brought a backpack full of explosive crystals. That kind of personality could hardly be described as problem-free. Perhaps after he traveled more and better understood the world, he would improve. Overall, he had some potential. Wait, Rhodes had been in the guild for 3 months already. How many missions had he done in total? Thinking about Rhodes' daily activities, Makarov tugged at his mustache in frustration. Was Rhodes planning to train himself to S-class before taking on regular missions? Chapter 101, Expectations vs. Reality. Goldmine and Yajima came to Magnolia to watch Fairy Tail's magical parade and, incidentally, to visit their old friend. Makarov had originally planned to bring them to the guild to show off his outstanding young members. And the result? Fortunately, the two weren't really outsiders, they knew what Fairy Tail was like. The three of them chatted in the guild, slurped down a bowl of ramen, and then left together to visit poorly Uzuka. Hurry up and get to work. It's our fault that the guildmaster lost face. Before leaving, the guildmaster had entrusted Riza with overseeing the guild's repairs. As a result, Riza changed into a worker's outfit, donned a safety helmet, held a paper megaphone in her hand, and earnestly took on the role of supervisor. Gray's shirt had gone missing again. Holding a hammer, he tapped away at the wall, complaining. Lucky, can't you just fix it directly? Lucky waggled her finger. No can do. Riza said I can only fix tables and chairs. I'm not allowed to mess up the construction plan. Wakaba grumbled with a cigarette dangling from his mouth. Why do we have to listen to her? Mikao gave a thumbs up. Well said, Wakaba. Go and take down Riza. Wakaba pointed at himself. Me? Are you kidding? Myra and Rhodes brought tea to comfort their hard-working companions. One with a smile, the other holding back laughter. Jet complained unhappily. Rhodes, you sure ran away quickly. Roy chimed in. That's right. I remember you were supposed to be in the innermost part. I just felt sorry for the master and didn't want to participate in the destruction. What did I do wrong? Rhodes looked at Levy. Levy, how about I teach you how to write the character, Miserable, today? Levy smiled dryly and waved her hand. Jet and Roy jumped up. You jerk. Supervisor Riza glanced over, and the two squatted back down, obediently returning to work. Rhodes poured a cup of tea for Riza. He also poured a cup for the half-dead Natsu. After a busy day, evening came. The long-awaited training time. Yesterday, Myra had said she would accompany him. What Rhodes imagined training together would be like, after various exercises, they'd check on each other to see if they were tired, wipe away sweat, drink water, and chat. What training together actually was, manly man. Rhodes looked at Myra. Why is Elfman here too? Myra chuckled mischievously. Because when Elfman heard I was going to try resuming training, he insisted on coming along, because Elfman was doing deep squats with a barbell on his shoulders, energetically shouting. As a man, I must train with all my might to protect my sister. Ha, ha ha, that's great. Rhodes busied himself with his own exercises. Having Elfman around was fine. Later, when practicing takeover magic, he'd have another opponent. After all, he couldn't spar with Myra. Losing would be frustrating, winning would make him feel guilty. Myra watched the two men sweat it out with a smile, then went to change into appropriate workout clothes and started training herself. Her goal was to increase strength, improve flexibility, and restore her magic power, but without gaining too much muscle. As for how to increase strength without building muscle, wizards have their own methods. Guaranteed to be unscientific. In the small courtyard behind the guild, the sounds of counting, spirited shouts of hey, ha, and Elfman's cries of manly man echoed one after another. During a mid-session break, Rhodes and Elfman drank the lightly salted water that Myra had prepared, watching her practice punches. Myra wore black athletic shorts and a short sports tank top that allowed for easy movement, exposing a section of fair skin at her waist. Her long white hair was tied into a high ponytail, swaying left and right with her punching motions. Looking at her like this, one could really see a bit of the delinquent girl from the photos. Of course, her current demeanor was more like a sunny and lively sporty girl. Rhodes watched silently for a while. Her punches are so sharp. Elfman said. Of course. My sister used to be very strong. Manly man. Does your sister know you call her a manly man? A manly man is a manly man. Communicating with this future brother-in-law is tough. Maybe I'll just talk with my fists later. After a while, Myra seemed tired too. She raised her arm, casually wiping the sweat from her forehead as she walked toward Rhodes and Elfman. Her face was flushed from the exercise, sweat trickling down her cheeks, with a few strands of damp hair clinging to her face. Elfman stood up and said, Sister, if it's too hard, you don't have to force yourself. Rhodes didn't say anything. He handed her a cup of water with one hand and a towel with the other. Myra smiled, took the cup, and sipped half of it. It's okay, Elfman. Exercising after work makes my body feel less stiff. Myra said as she wiped her sweat. Elfman turned to look at Rhodes. He suddenly felt like he'd lost. But Rhodes hadn't done anything or said anything. Strange. If sister is working so hard, I can't slack off either. Manly man. Want to spar? Rhodes extended his arm to the side. It turned into a wolf claw, then was covered with green chitin. Manly man. Then I'll be the referee. Myra flicked the towel twice, cheerful like an ordinary girl. Rhodes wasn't worried at all that she'd play favorites. The two of them started sparring in the courtyard with punches and kicks. Elfman, you can do it. Rhodes, don't hold back. Myra cheered for one, then encouraged the other, emphasizing impartiality. Only using partial takeover to fight Elfman, Rhodes felt a bit constrained. In the merc wolf form, while receiving wolf claws, he could actually release the wolf spirit circling around him to launch a surprise attack from behind. But using such moves against Elfman didn't seem appropriate. Better to fight head-on honestly. At worst, if they reached a stalemate, he'd use full-body takeover. Not being able to use surprise attacks in a fight was really frustrating. After the battle ended, cheerleader and referee Miss Myra suddenly switched roles to become the coach. She pointed out moments when Elfman didn't seize opportunities, and places where Rhodes's movements were off. Rhodes followed her instructions to pose, throwing punches or kicks, then asked for her opinion. Myra stepped forward, lifting Rhodes's arm, patting his knee, helping him adjust his posture. Is this right? The fist should be like this. Myra straightened Rhodes's wrist, patted his shoulder and waist. Then when punching, you need to exert force here and here, like this. Hey. As she spoke, she demonstrated. Rhodes mimicked her posture, even deliberately imitating her voice. Hey. Elfman punched the sandbag twice with a thud. He suddenly wanted to spar with Rhodes again. Since Elfman was accompanying her, Rhodes didn't suggest walking her home, he just lent her a scuttle crab. She knew how to control it. The three parted ways, And the next day they trained together like this again. Then, it was finally the day of the Harvest Festival. Chapter 102, The Beauty Pageant officially begins October 7th. The day when Magnolia's Harvest Festival officially takes place. On this day, the festive atmosphere reaches its peak. The city's busiest streets are now packed with people. Besides the local residents, many from nearby villages and towns have also arrived. Some have even been drawn by the fame of the magical parade, coming from even farther away. Street vendors are energetically hawking their goods, and Goodman is one of the stall owners enthusiastically promoting his products. Every so often along the roadside, musicians play instruments and sing songs, while clowns perform acrobatics. Even the boats on the canal are adorned with various decorations. The cheerful boatmen occasionally sing a few fishermen's songs. Food stalls are even more bustling, with the famous snack street filled with delicious aromas. Natsu, who could barely walk steadily due to the after effects of eating lightning, dragged Happy out early in the morning to feast. Given his appetite, it's estimated that not long after the festival, he'll have to find work. Because it's a rare celebration, not many people came to the guild's tavern in the morning. Everyone went to enjoy activities that interested them. Meanwhile, Rhodes was helping set up the venue in the guild, under the direction of Max. Today's first major event, the Miss Fairy Tale contest, was to be held at the guild. Max was the first to arrive in the morning and had been excited ever since. He had roped in Nab, Vegeta, and Alzik, people he usually got along with, to help with the labor. Alzik seemed somewhat reluctant. He had planned to take this opportunity during the festival to ask Biska out for a stroll. But Max asked him, "Invite Biska? Do you dare to say it?" Alzik fell silent instantly. He had been mustering the courage for months but still hadn't invited Biska to team up for a mission, let alone go out shopping. Then Max added, "Biska is also participating in the contest. If we can't set up in time, don't you want to help?" Alzik realized that if the contest couldn't proceed on time, Biska would be disappointed too. Poor Alzik. Not only making no progress but also being firmly manipulated by Max. The guild didn't have a ready-made stage, so Loki used her wood-make magic to seal off the counter area and transform it into a temporary stage. Tables and chairs were temporarily moved out, turning the entire tavern into the venue. Obviously, such space couldn't accommodate all those who wanted to watch the contest. Therefore, 3 monitoring lacrimas were placed at the front and sides of the stage. At that time, the live footage would be connected to the area near Cardia Cathedral in the city center. Friends who couldn't enter the venue could watch the live broadcast there. As for the contestants, Rhodes, as a staff member, already knew the list and had received a ballot. Each audience member entering the venue would receive a ballot, and people at the cathedral would also distribute them. After getting the ballot, Rhodes unhesitatingly wrote down a name. Loki tapped him. "Hey, the contest hasn't even started, and you're already showing favoritism." Rhodes nonchalantly folded the ballot and said confidently, "What's the problem? I know all the contestants, don't I know who's the most beautiful?" That's not necessarily true. Some people's style on stage is completely different from off-stage. No matter what style they become, my taste remains the same. You're hopeless. Loki glanced at Myra, who was smiling not far away. Darn, seems like I inadvertently helped him again. Humphrey. Rhodes didn't argue with her. Anyway, he's doing better than that kid Alzik. Although it's a bit challenging, at least he's taking action, and progress is delightful. After a busy period, the venue was finally set up, and the contestants entered the backstage one by one. Myra was probably the most composed among them. One moment she was helping out, and the next she lightly clapped her hands. "The contest is about to start, I'll leave this to you all. Good luck." Rhodes took over Myra's work, watching her walk into the backstage. That turn just now was quite graceful. Maybe it's because confident girls always shine? The audience had already entered. Rhodes used his position to secure a good spot for himself, and a hesitant Alzik also stood in the front row. Experienced members like Macau and Wakaba naturally arrived early to claim front row seats. Many other members had also rushed back to join the fun, some worried that if anyone received a lukewarm response on stage, they'd help cheer them on. Natsu, hugging a pile of snacks, squatted listlessly in a corner, eating non-stop. His condition was still not good. Gray, who rarely wore his clothes properly today, stood beside Natsu with his hands in his pockets. "Hey, didn't Granny Poorly Uzuka tell you to rest well? Besides, you're not interested in this kind of contest, right?" Natsu weakly replied. "But it's a guild event, I must participate." So uncomfortable. Saying he felt bad, but his mouth didn't stop eating. This idiot. Gray patted his forehead. What a troublesome guy. Amid the noisy chatter of the audience, the sound suddenly quieted down as Max took the stage with a microphone. The microphone had a small lacrima at the end, looking similar to the glass marbles kids played with in the 80s and 90s. Max professionally tested the sound, then began, "Ladies and gentlemen of Magnolia, and friends from nearby villages and towns, welcome to Fairy Tale." The audience applauded generously. "I heard that some people crossed mountains to get here for this contest. To arrive on time, they didn't even have time to retrieve their shoes when they fell off a cliff. Remember to jump off the cliff to pick them up after the contest." Max placed his hand by his ear in a listening gesture. The audience burst into laughter. Rhodes wanted to complain about why there was a cold joke segment. The humor was odd. "What country's warm-up style is this? I am your host, the Sand Wizard Max." Max waved his hand, and a plume of sand appeared out of thin air, writing his name in midair. "Without further ado, I announce that the Miss Fairy Tale contest officially begins." His enthusiastic voice stirred up the audience, and applause and cheers erupted. "Let's welcome contestant number 1, a beauty of strength and wildness, the Demon Princess, Mickey Chicken-Tidger." Wearing a tiger-patterned long dress and a headpiece with double horns, Mickey emerged from behind the curtain and took the stage, drawing a round of cheers. Mickey's type was clearly a favorite for many. Mikkel stared at Mickey's beautiful legs peeking from her skirt, nudging Wakabe. "See? I told you the side stage seats are the best." Wakabe couldn't take his eyes off her and couldn't help but say, "Ah, this time you win." Chapter 103, Requip, Heaven's Wheel Armor. After Mickey's appearance concluded, Max enthusiastically announced, "Next up is the magic demonstration segment." Right on stage, Mickey performed a set of punches, her tiger claw-shaped gauntlets glowing with magical energy. Her magic bird fluttered around her, sometimes transforming into fireballs, other times into ice spikes. Oh my, what a wild and powerful performance. Max kept up his commentary, explaining to those unfamiliar with magic the highlights of Mickey's act, eliciting rounds of applause. Even McGruff was caught up in the excitement, cheering loudly along with the regular audience. Rhodes looked helplessly at the little old man hopping excitedly beside him. "Master, why did you squeeze in over here too?" McGruff retorted. "This is a guild event, what's wrong with me participating?" Rhodes said. "Well, it's not that. Don't you need to accompany Mr. Ijima and Guild Master Goldmine? They know this city even better than you do, why would they need me to show them around?" "Alright, enough of that, let's enjoy the contest." McGriff suddenly complained. "I almost missed the best part because of you." "Fine, that's just how the guild master is," Rhodes accepted it. Next up is contestant number 2, Levy Garden. Following the same format as Mickey, Levy showcased her solid script magic. Using her fingers, she wrote words like flowers, butterflies, snowflakes, making them surround her, highlighting her cuteness and liveliness. Cute girls are also very popular, especially Jet and Droy. Their shouts overpowered a large portion of the surrounding audience. Contestant number 3, Bisca Connell. Bisca took the stage dressed in a cowgirl outfit, carrying a long rifle. Bing bang. She precisely hit the preset targets. Then she activated her Requip magic, switching the rifle for handguns, and fired another round. Finally, her action of blowing away the gun's smoke caused a burst of screams, and made Alzic's face in the audience turn red. Number 4, Canna Albrona. There was a bit of an accident with Canna. It seemed that she was already drunk when she took the stage. She was wearing her usual attire and, upon coming on stage, hugged a large barrel of wine and gulped it down. If not for Max's explanation, the audience might have thought her magic was drinking alcohol. "What is Canna doing?" Reedus held his paintbrush from afar, unsure whether to start sketching. Warren said. "It seems she joined to earn the prize money for Morbus, but ended up drinking on stage." Nab commented. "That's just like her." Bisca and Levy, who had just finished their performances, came back on stage to carry off the collapsed Canna, while Mickey moved the wine barrel away. Ah, it seems contestant Canna had a slight mishap. But the next up is a heavyweight contestant, contestant number 5, possessing both stunning beauty and incredible strength. The Fairy Queen, Mirza Scarlet. Ooh. Mirza's fame clearly far surpassed the previous contestants. Just appearing in her usual armor ignited the most enthusiastic cheers since the beginning. Requip, Heaven's Wheel Armor. With a flash of light, a magnificent metal armor appeared on Mirza. A pair of steel wings unfolded behind her like butterfly wings, lifting her into the air. Holding dual swords, with 16 swords from the Heaven's Wheel armor circling around her, they slowly rotated with her thoughts. Many audience members couldn't help but let out wolf whistles. In the instant when her old armor vanished and the new armor appeared, they seemed to see something, yet seemed to see nothing. Wearing the Heaven's Wheel armor, Mirza looked like a beautiful angel, yet also like a valiant goddess of war. Even Rhodes had to admit he was stunned by Mirza's outfit. Ooh. Mirza. Makarov was actually jumping up and down, shouting Riz's name, looking like a crazed fan ready to rush the stage at any moment. Rhodes had to remind this one of the 10 wizard saints beside him. "Master, please mind your image." "What image?" "We're watching the contest, Rhodes." Makarov slightly restrained his excitement. "By the way, Rhodes, you look just like Myra when she tries to persuade me to drink less." "The guild master sure knows how to compliment people," Rhodes said. "Then perhaps you should listen a bit and drink less." Makarov didn't want to talk to him anymore. Rhodes looked around. The audience was marveling at Riz's beauty and heroism. No wonder Riza and Myra had been rivals since childhood. These two are really neck and neck in every aspect. He was now a bit worried whether Myra could win. Until Riza swung her swords, and the surrounding swords lined up and shot out. 16 swords from the Heaven's Wheel armor flew swiftly over the heads of the numerous audience members, the sword lights forming circles, pentagrams, snake-like patterns, before finally returning behind Riza. Riza contentedly landed back on stage, reverting to her usual attire. The audience below only felt their scalps tingling. They could almost feel the wind from the flying swords. That sensation of swords whizzing over their heads was something they absolutely did not want to experience a second time. What astonishing control! What beautiful swordsmanship! Max tried his best to salvage the situation, but it was difficult to recover the somewhat awkward atmosphere. Mikhail touched his short purple hair. Riza went a bit too far. Wakaba nervously adjusted his pompadour hairstyle, feeling as if it had been sliced off just now. Normally, who would showcase their armor in a contest like this? As if they weren't among those just now staring at Riza with hearts in their eyes. On stage, Max had no choice but to continue the contest. "Next, let me introduce contestant number 6. Our guild's proud poster girl, whose beauty will one day captivate the entire continent. That is Mara Jane Strauss." Myra appeared on stage wearing her favorite red dress. "Ooh. We've been waiting. She's even cuter than in the magazines." The cheers from the audience were no less enthusiastic than those for Riza, perhaps even more so due to the earlier incident. Myra greeted everyone with a sweet smile. "Hello, everyone. I'm skilled in transformation magic, so I'll be demonstrating that for you." Rhodes remembered something ominous. The first time Myra showed him her transformation magic, she had transformed only the head into Poirot and Rhodes after that. Besides a costume showdown with Jenny, she seemed to have also transformed into Gagiel once. In this kind of contest, Myra wouldn't pull off something crazy, right? Had he known, he would have accepted Loki's suggestion to give Myra some reliable advice and requests. When she asked him again the day before yesterday, Rhodes had only said he'd like to see some outfits different from her usual ones. "Please don't make it too different." Chapter 104, Shall we stroll the festival together since it's a competition? Today I'll change into outfits rarely seen. The theme is Evening Gown Series, Transform. Myra activated her transformation magic, and her clothes instantly turned into a white floral bud-style wedding gown. Even her hairstyle changed into a sweet half-updo that matched the outfit. Ooh. So beautiful. She's just like a princess. The audience was pleasantly surprised. Although it wasn't the swimsuit many had hoped for, this gown was even more gorgeous and highlighted her elegant and gentle temperament. Myra walked a few steps and waved to the audience. Then, a flash of light enveloped her. Transform. This time, she wore a one-shoulder evening dress, with a short sleeve only on the right side. A blooming flower adorned and covered the left side of her chest. The asymmetrical skirt trailed on the ground on the left side, revealing her beautiful leg on the right. It was both dignified and sexy. Transform. Transform. Myra changed into 7 evening gowns in a row, each paired with different hairstyles and accessories. The only constant was that every outfit amazed the audience. Rhodes was also among the spectators. But while appreciating the beauty, he also had to restrain the overly excited guild master. He realized that the master genuinely loved young and beautiful girls. Mirza and Levy peeked from backstage, watching Myra's performance. Levy's eyes were full of envy. Not just for the popularity but also for Myra's perfect figure that could pull off any outfit. Sure enough, I can't compete with Myra. It feels like it's become her personal fashion show. Mirza, however, was stroking her chin thoughtfully, so this is how to win the competition. As expected of Myra. But the next year, I'll definitely win. You're taking this too seriously, Mirza. Levy looked at her. With that serious demeanor, she was just short of taking out a notebook to jot down notes. Looks like it'll be hard to have a chance to win next year too, Levy sighed softly in her heart. Under the audience's regretful gazes, Myra ended her transformation, bowed gently, and stepped off the stage. Several more girls with average popularity but equally high beauty took the stage afterward. But because they came after Myra, the response was lukewarm. Fortunately, the guild members especially the master. Enthusiastically cheered for everyone who went on stage, boosting the atmosphere so they wouldn't feel disappointed. And thus, this year's Miss Fairy Tale contest comes to an end. Please don't forget to vote for your favorite contestant. Marcus still spoke with full enthusiasm, delivering the closing remarks. Next, please exit in an orderly manner, and look forward to tonight's magical parade. Rhodes first went to cast his vote, then found a hidden spot to perform a takeover of the Scuttle Crab. He leaped high, hanging onto the guild hall's ceiling. He wanted to use the crab's 360-degree vision to strictly prevent any possible stampede incidents during the exit. At the slightest sign of trouble, he could immediately flip down to help. This kid really is. Makarov noticed that Rhodes might just be someone who loves to worry. The audience exited smoothly, and everyone restored the tavern to its original state. Some guild members went out for a stroll, while others stayed and drank and chatted as usual. Rhodes was about to help move the ballot boxes but was shooed away disdainfully by Lockie. I feel like if you move them, you'll throw away other people's votes. Fine, I won't move them. If you talk nonsense, I'll sue you for slander. Rhodes was happy to relax. Does Myra need to cheat to win this kind of competition? Especially after Reza pulled that stunt. Rhodes hugged Worm and found Myra. Want to go out for a walk? Sorry, I have a little something to do. Can we go later? Sure, then I'll go out for a bit first. Rhodes had promised to take Worm out to stroll and eat, originally planning to go with Myra. Now, it's fine to go separately. So, on the bustling streets of the Harvest Festival, a normal handsome guy wearing a t-shirt with a fairy tale emblem, holding a basketball-sized fluffy creature, wandered among various food stalls. Puru buy. Puru buy. Poo. Buy. Rhodes became an unfeeling money-spending machine, buying whatever Worm wanted, and he himself also tasted various delicacies. If he liked something, he'd eat more, if not, he'd give it to Worm. Anyway, the little guy wasn't picky, and everything was something it said it wanted. Everything was harmonious, the only problem was a wallet crisis. I just got paid a few days ago. Although the snack prices weren't high, there were simply too many varieties. Worm's appetite was really good, Rhodes was almost full, yet it still seemed unsatisfied. He touched Worm's heart-shaped belly, it seemed already hard. Poo. Burp. Worm tried hard to cover its mouth with its two front paws. I thought your appetite had grown, turns out you're forcing yourself. Worm's little paws pointed at a stall selling candied haws. Rhodes was both angry and amused. Still eating? Do you really want to burst? Worm's little horns drooped, and its watery eyes looked at Rhodes. Don't give me that look. It won't work. Rhodes didn't look at it but felt his lapel being tugged. Worm, pitiful look, thinking carefully, candied haws have hawthorn Baileys, maybe they can aid digestion? Rhodes gritted his teeth. Alright, one last time. At worst, he'll have to take on a low-difficulty mission later. Puru Worm was overjoyed. Rhodes felt that with his soft-heartedness, he definitely couldn't raise a child in the future. After getting the candied haws, Worm opened its mouth but didn't bite. After thinking, it first held it to Rhodes's mouth. At least you have a conscience. Rhodes smiled and bit into one. The sweet and sour taste made his mouth water. It wasn't the kind where the whole hawthorn Bailey was soaked through with syrup, making it overly sweet, but ordinary hawthorn coated with a layer of crystal sugar. The kind sold by street vendors. It was the taste of childhood. Then Worm demonstrated the wrong way to eat it, sticking out a long tongue and slurping off all the sugar coating. When only the hawthorn was left, every time it ate one, its facial features scrunched up. Worm tentatively handed the remaining half to Rhodes. It wasn't picky, but that didn't mean it couldn't taste sour, sweet, bitter, or spicy. Don't even think about it. You have to finish what you bought yourself, no wasting food. Worm looked distressed. Even if it was sour, it was still food, even if he let it throw it away, it couldn't bear to. It closed its eyes and opened its mouth wide. Ah. Rhodes held Worm and watched various street performances for a while and also strolled by stalls with small games like shooting targets, fishing, and ring toss. Almost every ordinary game had a signboard that read "No magic allowed." Of course, some people used interesting magical tools to design games for ordinary people to experience, but still wizards are forbidden to use magic. Rhodes, Sorza and Biscuit together, playing a game where you shoot targets with air guns to win prizes. Poor Alzip still couldn't muster the courage. Chapter 105, Ah. This one tastes good, and so does this one. That one over there is also okay, but it might not suit your taste. Myra had indeed finished her tasks and came out to stroll around the festival, asking Warren to help contact Rhodes. So Rhodes became the tour guide. Holding several snacks in her hands, Myra smiled and asked, I was thinking of taking you around the festival. Why is it now you who is taking me around? You even know the taste of food from every stall. Because I just accompanied Worm and tried almost everything on this street. Rhodes pulled a bitter face. If he'd known, he wouldn't have been so greedy earlier. It would have been much more enjoyable to share the food with Myra now. That darn Worm caused both his wallet and stomach to feel strained. Myra looked over the entire street, estimating the number of snack stalls. You've had a tough time. Well, I did agree to take care of it. Rhodes had already sent the well-fed Worm back to sleep. By the way, is there anything else to do at the guild? Myra said. I just finished assigning everyone's tasks for the parade, and we also need to prepare a celebration banquet. Looks like there's nothing for me in the magical parade. Rhodes felt a little disappointed but thought it was reasonable. He was a newcomer, after all. Myra asked curiously. Why do you think you don't have a task? Because no one told me to do anything. Rhodes looked at Myra. Oh, this is something you're in charge of? Yes, so I'm here to tell you. Myra smiled sweetly and scooped a big spoonful of shaved ice into her mouth from her cup. She closed her eyes, raised her hand to gently tap her head. So cold, so cold. A bit cute. Then what do I need to do? Do I really have to release wild monsters? More or less. Myra explained in detail what Rhodes was responsible for. The task wasn't difficult but might be a bit troublesome. But since everyone was contributing, Rhodes had no reason to refuse. You agreed surprisingly readily. To show my appreciation. I'll treat you to something to eat. Myra took out a box of dumplings from the bag hanging on her wrist and handed it to Rhodes. I'd love to eat, but... Rhodes made a pained expression. Thanks to Worm, I can at most have 1 or 2 bites of shaved ice now. Instant transmission ice is fine too. Myra took back the box, scooped a spoonful of shaved ice. Ah. Myra, are you serious? Rhodes hesitated for 0.0001 seconds and then modestly ate it. It's delicious. Myra's ears turned a bit red. Fortunately, her long hair covered them. She suddenly felt something was off. Just now, she had casually. It's okay, it's just feeding someone a bite. It's nothing. Mirza used to bathe with Natsu and Gray when they were kids. All small matters. Myra quietly scooped a small spoonful of shaved ice into her own mouth, then thought about whether to change the spoon. Forget it, it's already like this. Specifically changing it would be strange. Besides, last time at the cafe, they had even swapped cups. It's no big deal. This shaved ice is really delicious. That's Miss Myra. Look, it's Miss Myra. So beautiful. Not only in gowns, but she also looks gorgeous in casual clothes. Myra smiled and waved gently at them, looking a bit like a celebrity. Rhodes felt delighted. Beautiful, right? I think so too. Just now doesn't count. Myra suddenly said. Rhodes was puzzled. What doesn't count? Treating you to food. That just now doesn't count. I'll properly treat you in a few days. Sure. Rhodes agreed first and then asked. Why did you suddenly want to treat me? Because you've invited me several times, it's about time I return the favor. Myra thought for a moment and added. Let's consider it a celebration for winning the contest. Last month, Rhodes had been learning takeover magic from Myra and occasionally used thanking her as a reason to ask her out. Sometimes for some dessert, sometimes for a cup of coffee, sometimes maybe just to go out for ice cream and then return. So when he invited her out to the festival, he spoke so naturally without any particular reason. Elzik is too timid. Now being invited by her instead was a pleasant surprise. And moreover, the contest results are out? Yes. Max hurried to tally up the votes. Although we're planning to announce the results and post the vote counts tomorrow, such things are always told to me in advance. Myra playfully winked, as if saying she felt a bit embarrassed to have such privilege. Then congratulations, Miss Mara Jane, the most beautiful wizard of fairy tale. The little rich girl has won 500,000 jewels prize money, becoming even richer. I want to latch on to her. Myra smiled and said. It's because Rosa didn't compete seriously. No, I think she was very serious. So serious that she almost cut down the entire audience. Thinking back to Rosa's expression at that time. It was the same as when she punched him during their first sparring session. The look of someone who believes they will definitely win. The two didn't stroll outside for too long. As Myra said, there were still things to do for the magical parade and preparations for the celebration banquet after the parade. Later, everyone would return to listen to the guild master's instructions, but there were many things that couldn't be done without Myra, the capable manager. Actually, accompanying her while she worked wasn't bad either. Fireworks. Are the fireworks ready? They've already been transported to the designated location, and the city hall has arranged personnel to help. What about the costumes? They've been distributed, everyone can change into them before departure. Any issues with the floats? They've been decorated and are ready to go at any time. As Myra checked off each preparation item, when she asked about the floats, an incongruous voice sounded, "I have a problem. I don't want to ride on the float." That's what Natsu said. Myra said. Happy, take Natsu to find Rhodes and have him act together with him. Myra originally saw that Natsu was unwell and wanted him to rest, but he insisted that he couldn't be left out of something everyone was participating in and was determined to join. Myra had no choice but to assign the most unreliable person in the guild to partner with the most reliable one. Actually, Rhodes also had concerns, but he didn't bother Myra with them and instead went to find the guild master. If everyone is participating in the parade, what about security? Won't someone take the opportunity to cause trouble? At times like this, if anyone dares to cause trouble, there will be thunder in Magnolia's sky. Rhodes wanted to ask the master if he could speak plainly. But Makarov sighed himself, "Don't worry. Besides the city's security team maintaining order, I've also arranged for Luxus and the Thunder God tribe to be in charge of security, and Miss Togan will be keeping an eye on the parade throughout. If we rewind time by a few years, he might proudly introduce Magnolia's common weather to Rhodes." Sunny turning to Luxus. Unfortunately, that child has increasingly disliked participating in the magical parade he loved as a kid. But since this parade concerns Fairy Tale's reputation, even for the sake of appearances, Luxus wouldn't want anything to go wrong with the magical parade. So with security entrusted to him and the Thunder God tribe, there's no need to worry. Chapter 106, The one jumping through the ring of fire might not be a wolf. As the time approached 7 p.m., a crescent moon hung in the sky. The moonlight wasn't particularly bright, and the stars twinkled, seemingly competing with the crescent moon for brilliance. Whether they were out-of-town visitors like Yajima and Guildmaster Goldmine, or local residents like the Goodman family, all were waiting along the parade route. Some impatient ones simply waited at the entrance of the Fairy Tale Guild. But the guild, which was expected to be brightly lit and bustling, was instead silent, causing people to wonder if the magical parade had changed its starting point. Just as the second hand and the minute hand overlapped at 12, a bright light suddenly rose into the sky in the distance. Pop! A dazzling red light accompanied by a crisp sound. Immediately afterward, bright lights one after another around Magnolia trailed long tails into the sky, exploding into colorful fireworks. Crackle! Pop! Fireworks of various colors illuminated the entire night sky, with continuous bursts echoing in everyone's ears. Even before the wizards had appeared, people's enthusiasm had already been ignited by the preliminary fireworks display. The continuously flickering lights illuminated faces gazing up at the sky in surprise and anticipation. The dazzling fireworks burst intensively for about 3 minutes before gradually becoming sparse. But then new lights appeared in the night sky near Fairy Tale. They were magic circles. 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers. As many as 5 layers of gigantic magic circles of different colors lit up above the guild, drawing the audience's attention. As the glow of the magic circles faded, a giant even taller than the guild building seemed to walk out of thin air, with ripples like water waves lingering in midair. At the same time, cheerful music fitting for the festival suddenly began to play, even though no musicians were visible. "That's Master Makarov." As expected of one of the 10 wizard saints. "Such an overwhelming presence." "You're mistaken, Guildmaster Makarov is really nice." The local residents enthusiastically shared their impressions of Makarov, seeming to derive a mysterious pleasure from the greater the astonishment of the out-of-town visitors. Boom! Boom! The giant Makarov seemed to make the earth tremble with each step. The huge difference in size often brings fear, but when the audience knows it's a magical performance, the emotion turns into excitement. Following closely were 2 rows of musicians, 10 in total, composed of music enthusiasts from the guild. They were the ones who had just played the festival music, using specially made magical instruments. Even with fireworks still being set off, they could deliver the music into every audience member's ears. After the band was a doll float, carrying the girls who had participated in the Miss Fairy Tale contest. Kana, Levy, Biska, and others were all there, wearing uniform outfits, waving ribbons and dancing in a cheerleader-like routine. Even the chronically hungover Kana had a smile on her face at this time. As long as she stayed in this guild, one day she would achieve that thing she wanted to do. On both sides of the float, there was a team of dancers accompanying them, wearing their favorite costumes, dancing simple and cheerful steps to the rhythm of the music. People like Jet, Nab, Droy, and Vegeta. Those whose magic wasn't flashy enough for performances were among them. On the second float were Elfman, Ritas, and Loke. Elfman's arms transformed into ferocious beast arms, displaying his masculine spirit. Loke flexed his arm, the rings on his fingers emitted light, forming the guild's name under his control. Ritas swung his paintbrush, rainbows and fireworks flew out from his belly, which served as his canvas, almost indistinguishable from the real thing. Countless petals floated backward, flying toward the next float. On this float, Myra, wearing a blue festival dress, danced gracefully. As she waved her arms, petals fluttered by, like a fairy among flowers. Next was, of course, the float carrying Mirza, who had changed into armor specially designed for the festival. 16 long swords, also crafted for the festival, spun and danced with her movements, combining beauty and valor. Many audience members, while marveling, also felt puzzled. Why didn't she wear this outfit during the beauty contest? Isn't this much better than having those obviously sharp swords flying over people's heads? On both sides of each float, there was a team of dancers following, and between floats, there was a musical band or dance group separating them. Everyone, either in festive attire or showcasing appropriate magic, gradually pushed the atmosphere to a climax. The group responsible for bringing up the rear was Rhodes, Happy, Natsu, and Gray. Gray and Natsu each rode on Krug, walking side by side. Gray pressed his fists and palms together, huge ice crystal snowflakes rose into the sky, shattering into sparkling ice shards. Natsu forced himself to perk up, spitting fireballs upward that rose alongside the ice crystals, exploding into bursts of fireworks. Rhodes was carried into the air by Happy, skillfully weaving between the flames and ice crystals, spiraling upward. Happy let go, and Rhodes began to fall naturally. At this moment, a flock of raptors flew by. Rhodes stepped on their backs, strolling leisurely as if descending stairs. When he was about to land, Happy grabbed him again, suspending him in front of Natsu and Gray. Rhodes extended both hands, riding fire with one hand and ice with the other. The two words transformed into letters made of flames and ice crystals, descending. Natsu opened his mouth to swallow the fire, then spat out flames forming the guild's name. Gray reached out to catch the ice, using magic to reshape it into the guild's emblem. Mikau and Wakaba, who were guarding on both sides, manipulated purple flames and smoke respectively, forming intricate patterns that encircled the guild emblem and name in the center. When everyone had appeared, Miss Togan, who was hiding in the shadows, retracted his staff. Whether it was the magic circles at the opening or the guild master and floats appearing out of thin air, all were achieved through his illusions. Now, the S-Class special effects artist Miss Togan exited, and the S-Class security guard Miss Togan began to work. But when he silently climbed to the highest point of a building, he discovered two scuttle crabs disguised by Redis's magic. He had heard some rumors about the guild's newcomer. Things like trains very hard. Harboring intentions toward Myra. Cautious to a frightening degree. And so on. Miss Togan didn't know about the others, but he had witnessed the cautious part. He should congratulate the guild master. It's rare to encounter someone so worry-free. This magical parade started from the guild entrance, crossed the canal to Cardia Cathedral, and then returned to the guild via another route. Everyone worked hard to perform, showcasing the magical side of the wizard guild, as well as the friendly side of the wizards. Yajima stood among the crowd with his hands behind his back. With so many excellent kids, no wonder little Mikuru is so happy. Compared to them, the kids in our guild are still far behind. Guildmaster Goldmine crossed his arms, first feeling a bit annoyed, then happy. Well, it's fairy tale after all. Not far from them, a blue-haired little girl holding a small white cat didn't attract much attention. So beautiful, such an amazing guild. The small white cat spoke human words. You haven't forgotten why you came here, have you? Tomorrow, definitely tomorrow. You said the same thing yesterday. Carla in a small alley, Lixus leaned against the wall, coolly watching the parade, not knowing what he was thinking. The Thunder God tribe, however, was diligently patrolling around the parade route. Lixus didn't want Fairy Tail to lose face, they didn't want Lixus to be unhappy. Poorly Uzuka, alone in the forest outside the city, gazed at the fireworks in the sky. A slight smile appeared on her face but quickly vanished. Why do they have to hold this kind of ceremony every year? So noisy. How's one supposed to sleep? Chapter 107, Welcome to Fairy Tail. The magical parade ended smoothly. As soon as everyone returned to the guild, they immediately began the celebration banquet. Everyone gathered together to celebrate the success of the parade. Some people, still not having had enough fun, put on mascot costumes and started dancing in strange ways. Others continued to wear their parade costumes, grabbed instruments, and sang songs. The scene was both lively and chaotic. Makariv sat cross-legged on the counter, drinking with the sight of the children laughing, getting drunk without even realizing it. Rhodes, who was serving drinks, would be pulled aside by his companions every few steps for a toast under various excuses. This wasn't the kind of give-me-face drinking culture, it was simply an expression of everyone's joy, so Rhodes also enjoyed it. Although at first, he worried he might get drunk, seeing everyone else in their state, he figured it wouldn't hurt if he joined the drunken bunch. As the glasses were exchanged, Rhodes gradually let go of himself. He pulled Gray along and stuffed a beer bottle filled with ice into Natsu's mouth, watching him jump up from his sickly state, gagging. He also dragged Natsu to shove a piece of roast meat drenched in spicy sauce into Gray's mouth, watching the ice wizard almost breathe fire from the spiciness. Of course, he couldn't escape being chased all over the guild by Natsu and Gray, armed with ice and charred roast meat. Somewhere in a daze, Rhodes seemed to have clinked his cup with someone's keg, even trying to grab it to drink from it. He seemed to have bumped into someone, and a metallic clang rang in his ears, making his already dazed head feel even more muddled. He also seemed to have teamed up with a plume of purple flames to snatch someone's smoking pipe, only to be thrown away by the smoke. Rhodes, usually cautious and steady, did many things he would never do on normal days. The accumulated pressure was recklessly released in his drunkenness. The small gap and distance between him and everyone gradually disappeared amidst the laughter and chaos. After enough commotion, an exhausted Rhodes slumped onto the counter, smiling foolishly at the noisy scene. In the end, it was Myra's smiling face that appeared before him. She poured herself a glass of wine, but handed Rhodes a cup of warm water instead. Rhodes looked at her, still smiling foolishly. Myra held Rhodes' hand with the water cup and clinked it with her own wine glass. She downed her wine in one gulp, then wrapped one arm around Rhodes, letting his head rest in her arm, while she fed him the warm water with the other hand. Before closing his eyes, Rhodes saw her bright smile and heard her pleasant voice, "Welcome to Fairy Tale." The heck? I actually got drunk. Early the next morning, Rhodes woke up groggily and then shot up like a spring. He looked around and saw tables and chairs overturned, with people lying sprawled all over the guild. Some lay slumped over tables, others were on the ground, and some were half on the ground, with their legs resting on tables. There were all kinds of awkward sleeping positions. Rhodes felt a headache coming on. Seemed like a hangover. "Rhodes, you're awake?" Myra's voice called out. "Hold on, drink a cup of warm milk. It'll help." "Thanks." Rhodes took the milk, feeling conflicted. Myra, did I do anything weird last night?" "Weird?" Myra thought for a moment, then smirked mischievously. "Does running around naked count?" "What?" Rhodes felt like his brain exploded and looked down at himself in disbelief. "But, I'm still dressed. I was talking about Gray." Myra chuckled. "Your expression just now was priceless. She's definitely doing this on purpose." Rhodes sulked as he drank the warm milk. "If you want to talk about weird things, everyone did something like that. We messed around until nearly 5 in the morning before finally going to sleep." 5 in the morning? It must have been daylight already. "Yeah," how Myra yawned. "Today's going to be a busy day." Rhodes mumbled under his breath. "Even yawning looks so pretty." Myra didn't catch it. "What?" "Nothing, I said you should rest a little longer. I'll watch over things here." Myra thought for a moment and said. "Just for a little while then. Call me if anyone wakes up." "Got it. By the way, where's the guild master?" "He went out early, probably to see off Mr. Yajima and Guildmaster Goldmine." Myra yawned again, and instead of going to the lounge, she simply rested her head on her arms, leaning against the counter. "Good night, remember to wake me up." "Good night." Rhodes tiptoed around, seeing Natsu and Gray pulling on each other's cheeks even in their sleep. Happy was holding on to the end of Natsu's scarf, smacking his lips, probably dreaming of eating fish. Kana slept hugging her barrel, Levi rested her head on Loki's lap, and even Rizza lay slumped over a table, sleeping soundly. The guild was peaceful, with only the sound of light snores. Rarely seen. Rhodes sat down, watching Myra's sleeping figure. Her delicate little face exposed to the side, her eyelashes slightly fluttering, made him want to draw a small turtle on her face. What nonsense. Rhodes stood up, went to the lounge, and brought back a blanket, gently covering Myra. It was already a little chilly in the October morning. Thinking for a moment, Rhodes sneaked over to Rita's side, stealing his paints and brush. Might as well play a little prank on Natsu while he was idle. With his masterpiece completed, Natsu continued to sleep soundly, so Rhodes decided to extend his care to Gray, and he couldn't forget Happy either. Turns out, playing pranks was quite exhilarating. Rhodes glanced at Urza, who was slumped over at the next table. He couldn't resist the urge to do something dangerous. The brush slowly approached Urza's cheek, and Rhodes's hand started trembling. "Who?" Suddenly, Rhodes's wrist was grabbed, and Urza opened her eyes, staring at him with sharp eyes. Rhodes took a sharp breath. Urza's grip was strong. "Oh, it's you, Rhodes." "Sorry." Urza's gaze softened as she let go of his wrist and stood up. "Looks like everyone got drunk." Urza glanced around, her eyes swept over Natsu and Gray's faces before finally landing on the brush in Rhodes's hand. She looked confused. "What were you just?" "Ahem. I felt like they were being too careless, So I wanted to leave a mark as a reminder. I was actually planning to ask you to join me. A terrible lie, full of holes. No sane person would belly. I see. What? Using pranks as a reminder. If this were outside, even if drunk, they can't let their guard down. Mirza stroked her chin, her eyes sparkling with understanding. Rhodes, you're so thoughtful, always looking out for everyone. Uh-oh, Mirza seemed to take things a bit too seriously sometimes. Couldn't always be considered a regular person. Rhodes forced a laugh. Ha ha ha, you're right. Chapter 108, Mirza was someone who acted immediately, especially with fun activities, and she was even more skilled at it than Rhodes. Before Myra could fall victim, Rhodes woke her up. Myra opened her eyes to see the guild filled with painted faces. Mirza froze, hiding the pen behind her back. Myra? Myra scolded playfully. Why didn't you call me earlier for something this fun? Huh? And so, the face-painting army gained a new member. Rhodes sat at the counter, watching the two busy and excited figures, thinking that today, at least, he wouldn't be fighting because of this. They'd better go fight those two instead. He felt strangely disappointed. When everyone woke up, they laughed loudly the moment they opened their eyes. But as they laughed, they realized something was wrong. Once they became aware of their own situation, they couldn't even bother figuring out who was behind it. They just wanted to beat up anyone laughing at them. It would be so easy to provoke these idiots into a fight, Rhodes thought to himself. Suddenly, Rhodes said, Myra, come a bit closer. Myra stepped toward him. What's wrong? Whoosh. A wooden beer mug flew right past where Myra had just been standing, crashing into the cabinet behind her. Oh my, Myra covered her mouth, laughing softly. Thanks. You're welcome. But do you have some kind of magnet for flying objects? Rhodes asked, feeling that every time chaos erupted, something would always fly toward Myra. When he first joined the guild, he even saw Myra get knocked down by a beer bottle, though back then, he couldn't react in time. Myra waved it off. How could I have something like that? Rhodes grabbed Myra's arm, pulling her a few meters to the side. Elfman flew past them, landing against the wall. Rhodes looked at Myra. Are you sure? Maybe? Myra thought for a moment. Let's just go out, it feels like we'll need to buy a new set of tableware soon. Not going to help Elfman? Manly. Elfman shouted as he peeled himself off the wall and rejoined the fray. Alright, I guess not. Rhodes said. He and Myra hugged the wall as they snuck out of the guild, leaving the sounds of destruction behind them. It seems like the festival atmosphere hasn't faded at all. Myra remarked. It'll probably take about a week for things to go back to normal. Rhodes replied. With their shopping done, Rhodes and Myra chatted as they walked back to the guild, a scuttle crab following behind them, serving as a porter. Rhodes suggested. Maybe we should go in through the back door? Myra smiled. After all this time, they should almost. Suddenly, Rhodes extended his arm, stopping Myra. Who's there? Myra might not have noticed, but Rhodes, with a scuttle crab's perspective, could see someone hiding at the alley's entrance, seemingly hesitant to come out. There was no response, and Myra quietly stood behind Rhodes. If you don't come out, I'll start a fire. Robbing people? Burning sounds like a fitting punishment. Rhodes said, pretending to use his text magic. In reality, he was getting ready to release Merc Wolf. No. I'm not a bad person. Please don't attack me. Ah. A blue-haired girl ran out of the alley but tripped over a small stone, falling face first onto the ground. Rhodes, who was clutching his pendant, froze. What was this? Ouch. The girl got up on her own, dusting herself off skillfully. I told you not to rush in. A small white cat said as it emerged from behind her. The tiny cat stood protectively in front of the girl. And you, fairy tale mages. You're way too aggressive. The girl squatted down and whispered. Carla, we shouldn't have been hiding in the first place. Carla huffed. Don't put all the blame on yourself. It's because of that attitude you always get bullied. The girl hung her head. Sorry. You're hopeless. Carla stomped her little foot in frustration. Hello, I'm a maid from Fairy Tale. My name is Mara Jane, and this is Rhodes. Myra slightly leaned forward, her smile full of warmth. May I ask who you are? Rhodes stood beside Myra, wary in case they attacked. He could feel the magic power within the girl, and there was an unfamiliar blue emblem on her right arm, likely indicating she was also a mage. As for the talking cat, well, talking cats were pretty normal, even if they could fly. Carla, it's the real Mara Jane. She's so beautiful. The girl whispered excitedly to Carla before standing up. She put her hands behind her back, nervously shifting her toes as she spoke. I'm Wendy, and this is Carla. We are both mages from the Kate Shelter Guild. Rhodes thought to himself. The child was pretty cute, and she praised Myra's beauty. Probably a good person. Joking aside, dark guild mages generally wouldn't dare wander near legitimate guilds and certainly wouldn't introduce themselves like this. Rhodes had one question, though. I've seen the local guild alliance list, but I don't recall a guild named Kate Shelter. Are you part of a different region? I'm not sure either. Our guild is located in the northern portion of Fiore, not too far from Worthsea. It doesn't seem very well known outside. Wendy explained. That's far. Myra was surprised. Did you come all this way by yourselves? That's incredible. From Kate Shelter to Fairy Tale was almost a journey from the southernmost part of the country to the northeast. They'd need to take a carriage to the port, cross nearly half of Fiore's coastline by ship to Hargen, then travel by train to Magnolia. The courage to make such a long journey at her age already put her ahead of Rhodes. Wendy blushed at the praise. But Carla chimed in. It's just a long trip on a carriage and a boat. Any kid could do it. Don't underestimate the mages of Kate Shelter. I certainly don't mean to underestimate you. Myra found Carla quite cute. She might not have been strong, but she put a lot of effort into protecting Wendy and their guild. As for the question of whether traveling across most of the country was impressive, Myra glanced at Rhodes with a smile. Rhodes looked up at the sky. If not for the incident back then, he might still be too afraid to leave Magnolia. This kid Wendy was already stronger than he was. Is this world really that safe? Ahem. Rhodes cleared his throat. So, you came all this way for the magical parade? Did you manage to see the performance last night? Yes. Wendy nodded enthusiastically, her hands clasped at her chest, her eyes sparkling. It was amazing. I've never seen such a wonderful performance before. Then Wendy seemed a bit shy, lowering her head as she nervously twisted her foot on the ground. Also. Actually. Carla sighed, stepping forward to speak for her. That's one of the reasons. The main reason was to find you and someone called the Salamander the Fire Dragon. Wendy cautiously added. Carla, isn't that a bit rude? To find me? And the Fire Dragon? Chapter 109, I know this girl, Myra suggested. Since you're also looking for Natsu, why don't you come into the guild for a bit? Can we? Wendy asked eagerly. Rhodes wanted to ask too. Could the guild even accommodate guests right now? Of course, no problem. Myra said confidently, trusting in everyone's ability to repair the place. Wendy and Carla followed Myra through the guild doors. Though Carla tried to keep a serious expression, it was clear that she, like Wendy, was full of curiosity. It was their first time visiting another mage's guild. Wow, so this is Fairy Tale. Wendy's excitement quickly faded, replaced by fear. What happened here? Carla looked just as shocked. Did you face an attack? An earthquake? A tornado? The guild's tavern was in a mess. Everyone inside was either injured or had strange patterns painted on their faces, looking quite frightening. Well. It's not that serious. Myra called into the room. Is everyone recovering their spirits? Lockie and a few girls were busy cleaning, while others were repairing the walls, counters, and stairs. Everyone was bustling around. Lockie waved at Myra. Welcome back, Myra. We broke a lot of plates this time. We already bought new tableware. Myra. Who's the adorable kid? A client? I want to take her mission. She's a guest from far away, Nikki. You should finish what you're working on first. Rhodes shouted. Hey, can't any of you wash your faces before working? You're scaring our guests. Wakabe yelled. Damn it, Rhodes. Why do we have to fix the guild while you get to go shopping with Myra? Because I wasn't part of the brawl. Rhodes said, patting the scuttle crab that stopped at the door. Come on, someone help move these things. Manly Elfman was the first to drop what he was doing to help carry what his sister had bought. Gray tossed his hammer toward Natsu's feet. He had had enough of repairing the same spot as this idiot. The three of them moved the supplies to the kitchen while Myra entertained Wendy and Carla with tea. At the counter, Happy was there too, staring at Carla with hearts in his eyes. Gray couldn't help but ask. Who is that kid? And that female Happy? Elfman added. Manly. They said they're mages from Kate Shelter, here to see me and Natsu. Rhodes replied. Have you heard of Kate Shelter? Both of them shook their heads, indicating that it must be a guild with little recognition. After putting everything away, Rhodes dragged Natsu over to the counter. Sorry to keep you waiting, this is the Fire Dragon. Huh? Natsu, who still wasn't fully recovered, was visibly confused, though he seemed much better than before. Where's the Fire Dragon? Where's Gneil? Rhodes sighed. Your nickname is Salamander Fire Dragon. Haven't you ever heard it before? Oh. Natsu deflated, absent-mindedly fiddling with the cup of water Myra had placed in front of him. However, when he heard Wendy's name, he stared at her for a long while. Rhodes was surprised. Natsu might actually be thinking for once. Hey, staring at someone like that is really rude. Carla scolded Natsu, then turned to Happy, pointing with her tiny paw. And you, Tomcat, what have you been doing all this time? Happy opened the small green bundle he carried. Carla, do you want some fish? Inside his bundle was always a fish, and he would replace it with a fresh one every day. Humphrey. Carla made a face of disgust. Happy sulked into a corner. Rhodes nodded in understanding. He had always wondered whether Happy would eventually like a person or a she-cat. Today, he finally had an answer. Wendy. I've heard that name somewhere before, but also not. Natsu tapped his head in frustration. Myra, Rhodes, could you help me think? Myra smiled. Well, I'm afraid I can't help you with that. I have a solution. If you've lost your memory, all you need is a stick and a good whack on the head. Rhodes suggested. I'll go get Rizit to help you think. I see. Natsu hit his palm in realization but quickly reacted. Wait. Are you trying to kill me? This feeling of familiarity upon meeting someone wasn't uncommon. People often called it a feeling of déjà vu. So at first, Rhodes hadn't thought much of it. He, too, felt Wendy looked familiar now. Wait, hold on. I feel like I've seen Wendy somewhere too. Was it a photo or a picture? No, it wasn't either of those. It was on the poster in the dormitory. Wendy. This kid should be one of the main group. Rhodes suddenly realized, and as he looked at Wendy, the suspicion in his eyes was replaced with warmth. Wendy, are these really the people you're looking for? Carla eyed both Natsu and Rhodes. One seemed dumb, and the other seemed like a friend of the dumb one. Don't joke around. Myra cut the two of them off, then asked Wendy. Why are you looking for them? Wendy cautiously asked. Natsu. Are you a dragon slayer mage? Natsu nodded. Yep, fire dragon slayer. Actually, I'm a dragon slayer mage too. The sky dragon slayer. What? All three of them were stunned. Dragon slayer magic was a type of ancient magic, categorized as lost magic. Lost magic was termed lost because the methods to learn it were almost completely forgotten. It was extremely rare for someone to be able to practice these magics. Meeting even one dragon slayer, like Natsu, was already remarkable. And now, suddenly, there was Wendy, a girl only 11 years old. It was truly shocking. For Natsu, however, this wasn't just about surprise. Wendy, who taught you dragon slayer magic? I was taught by the sky dragon, Grandini. Grandini is a real dragon, and she adopted me. Wendy explained. What about you, Natsu? Me too. The one who taught me was Gnil, the fire dragon. Gnil also raised me. Natsu was thrilled. It was a feeling of finally finding someone like him. In the past, whenever he mentioned Gnil, others would always tell him that dragons were extinct and impossible to find. But now, he had finally met someone who had also learned magic from a dragon. Wendy was equally happy. From the moment she had seen Natsu, she had felt a sense of closeness. Wendy, can you take me to see Grandini? Does she know where Gnil went? Wendy's joyful expression faded. Grandini has been gone for 6 years. On July 7th, 6 years ago, she suddenly disappeared. Carla continued for Wendy. That's also why Wendy came to find you. She wanted to ask if you knew anything about the dragons. Gnil too. He vanished 6 years ago, on July 7th, X777, leaving me without a word. Natsu's excitement cooled as well. That despicable old man had just disappeared without saying anything. How could this be? Wendy had a bad feeling earlier, but the confirmation left her feeling lost. Why was it X777? July 7th, for both of them. It seems like they coordinated it. Myra remarked. Maybe there's some connection between Gnil and Grandini. Was there something special about that day? Rhodes recalled his knowledge of general history, but there didn't seem to be any major events or holidays on that date. Now that he knew Wendy would be part of their group in the future, Rhodes was more willing to think a little harder to help her. Carla turned to Rhodes. If there are no other clues, that leaves you. You're the third person here who might be related to dragons. Chapter 110, Grandini sent. When we were in Kate's shelter, we heard that there was a dragon sighted in Magnolia. After arriving here, we also heard about the beast riot in the forest, and someone even mentioned seeing a dragon among them. After some investigation, we found out that the person who dealt with the riot was named Rhodes, and he destroyed an entire forest. He sounds like a reckless guy. Carla looked at Rhodes. So, if there's anyone who might know about the dragons besides the fire dragon, it's you. Whoa, amazing. Destroying an entire forest. Natsu clashed his fists together, excited. Rhodes, you're that strong already? Want to have a real match? And didn't you say you haven't seen a dragon? First of all, I've never seen a dragon. Secondly, I didn't destroy an entire forest. Natsu, you were just there a few days ago. Use your brain every once in a while, idiot. Rhodes cleared up the rumors, then added. The beast triad probably did happen, and if you saw yesterday's parade, you might have a bit of an impression of my magic? That clunky riding magic doesn't seem like your primary magic. Carla commented, recalling the giant crab she'd just seen. So, it's magic that creates monsters and then controls them. Wendy thought Carla was being a bit harsh. Rhodes couldn't really get mad since it was true. To be precise, I summon all sorts of creatures. As he spoke, he summoned Worm. Wendy was immediately captivated by the creature. So cute. Worm looked around and went to rub its head against Carla. Carla made a disdainful face but didn't push it away. Happy, in the corner, looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Worm, I challenge you to a duel. Woo? Worm ran over to rub its head against Happy instead. Happy raised his fish like a weapon, but couldn't bring himself to strike. When I was in the forest, I encountered danger, and my magic might have gone out of control, summoning a group of creatures. The forest was partially destroyed, but it wasn't as exaggerated as the rumors made it out to be. As for the dragon, Rhodes hesitated. There might have been a dragon among them, but it probably isn't related to the dragons you're looking for. Natsu tilted his head, thinking. Neil isn't the type to just obey someone. Grandini loves humans very much. Wendy wanted to ask Rhodes to summon the dragon he'd summoned before, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. Luckily, Carla was there. Can you, Rhodes, summon the dragon for us to see? Natsu interrupted, speaking and swinging his fist at the same time. Natsu's empathy often came out in odd ways. Rhodes squinted at him. You just want to see it? Of course, I also want to fight it. Wendy and I are dragon slayers. What kind of dragon slayer would we be if we don't fight a dragon? Wendy was startled. Ugh. Fight? Carla scolded. Hey, you're scaring Wendy. Sorry, but even if I wanted to, I can't summon it. Rhodes sighed. Last time was a fluke, I can't do it now. Natsu slapped his hand on the table, stepping up onto the bench. Don't just say you can't do it. We're fairy tale wizards, summon that dragon. I already told you, I can't. Use some determination. Why don't you show me how to do it with determination first? I will. Give me your pendant. Not a chance. Stingy. Natsu crossed his arms, sitting down, his face turned to the side, sulking like a child. Rhodes wanted to slap himself for being dragged into an argument by this idiot. Wendy was at a loss. Carla patted her own forehead. As expected, they were an idiot and an idiot's friend. Myra watched them bicker with a smile. She felt like the more Rhodes hung out with Natsu, the more entertaining he would become. Rhodes looked at Wendy, trying to speak in a gentler tone. Sorry, but this is all the information we have on dragons. As for summoning a dragon, I'll have to get stronger before I can try again. When I can, I'll definitely let you know. Thank you. Carla, the tsundere cat, could sense their good intentions. Let's go, Wendy. Carla, do you have to go? Happy came over. Why not stay in Fairy Tale instead? Carla rolled her eyes. Humphrey, we have our own guild, why would we stay here? Poor Happy. Rhodes thought about it and decided to lend him a bit of help. It's almost noon. Why don't you stay for lunch? 2 dragon slayers together. You might learn something by talking more. Happy's eyes sparkled, thinking Rhodes was a good person. He'd help prank Natsu next time, too. Myra added. That's right. It's not every day we have guests from other guilds. Let us properly host you with some fairy tale specialty dishes. They're delicious. Wendy seemed tempted. Carla flicked her tail. Do whatever you want. Wendy cheered. Thank you. Happy was even happier than she was. Thank you for the food. Myra patted Happy's head. You should say you're welcome. Rhodes was curious about Wendy. Natsu, as a fire dragon slayer, can eat fire. What does a sky dragon slayer eat? Wendy replied. Air. Is it tasty? Natsu asked. Wendy hesitated. Well, it's hard to describe. Why not try a little? Natsu suggested. Carla frowned. Do you go around eating fire for people to watch? Natsu turned his head. Rhodes? Solid word magic, fire. Slurp slurp. Natsu inhaled the flaming word, then wiped his mouth. See? Carla sighed. He was such a handful. It's okay, Carla. Wendy opened her mouth, making exaggerated chewing motions as she ate a bit of air and swallowed. It was kind of cute, though nothing seemed particularly special. Anyone could do such an action,